Chapter 643. About that, today's weather is pretty good. Tang Yu thought for a long time and decided to break this awkward situation. Qing Yutong pursed her lips. Is there such a thing as weather in Voidless Realm? Tang Yu. So awkward It's really so awkward Tang Yu felt that her brain wasn't enough right now. I have to quickly think of a way to save myself and cherish this rare opportunity. I usually stay at home and train my martial arts, write poems and draw. What about you? Tang Yu felt that this topic was pretty good. Don't all girls like this type of guys? Qing Yutong laughed. Is that so? I like guys who know how to play games. Tang Yu. Play games? I don't think I have played games before. How am I supposed to continue with this? I am completely unable to continue. I have never left Voidless Realm before, so I don't know how to play games. Tang Yu said helplessly, feeling that she was going to be finished today. Qing Yutong didn't mind at all and said with a smile, You are also doing this for Voidless Realm, I can understand. That's good. How about we go to that pavilion and have a seat? Tang Yu looked towards the pavilion that was not far away from them. That pavilion was a place where guys would brag, drink and so on. All right. Qing Yutong said tenderly. Tang Yu felt that Qing Yutong's voice was super pleasant to listen to. If I can listen to her voice for my entire life, how great would that be? Yihua also felt that his sister-in-law's voice was very pleasant to listen to, and this point was a bit better than Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji. Especially when she acts coquettishly, it can simply give you goosebumps. The two walked into the pavilion that was called Zhou Xian Pavilion. The environment inside was elegant and there were a few guys who were bragging. When they saw the two walking in, the guys stood up and shouted, Lord Qing. General Tang. From the order, it could be seen that Qing Yutong's status was higher than Tang Yu. The two nodded their heads, which could be considered as a response, then directly walked towards the top floor. However, not long after the two left, Yihua walked in with a cigarette in his mouth, and his expression was a bit unkind. When everyone saw that Yihua appeared, they all went into a daze. Soon after, they revealed a look of worship and shouted, Lord Yi. This is how a strong person should be addressed. From their tone, it can be seen that when they called Tang Yu just now, they definitely did not use this tone. Yihua did not pay any attention to her and directly walked upstairs. Tonight, I am going to spank my sister-in-laws, but until it is swollen. Towards Yihua's attitude, no one felt uncomfortable. In fact, they even felt that this was something that a powerhouse should do. Coming to the top of the pavilion, Qing Yutong and Tang Yu sat at a seat that was close to the side. From this angle, they could see the entire street and it was very comfortable. Especially when the cool breeze blew, that comfortable feeling made people feel relaxed and happy. Qing Yutong held onto her chin, then turned her head and looked towards the darkness outside. Curious about what brother-in-law is doing. I am already going on a blind date. Are you still not anxious? What a bad brother-in-law. Do you want something to drink? Tang Yu asked with concern. Whatever. Qing Yutong said indifferently. Is the tea good? I don't like it. Tang Yu, didn't you say anything? Are all women like this? What do you want to eat? Whatever. Tang Yu was about to collapse. How could she be so casual? However, right at this moment Yihua walked over. Everyone on the tall pavilion stood up. Even Tang Yu stood up, but Qing Yutong didn't. Greetings, Lord Yi. Everyone shouted respectfully. Yihua nodded his head and sat at the side. Although Qing Yutong didn't stand up, the corner of her mouth revealed out a cute arc. Brother-in-law is so cute. I love you to death. Tang Yu, who sat down, saw Qing Yutong smiling and felt curious. Could it be because of me? When Yihua saw that his sister-in-law was smiling so happily, he became furious. To have a clandestine love affair with me, and now you are going on a blind date. Who do you think I am? This is what it means to abandon after having sex. Yihua's appearance undoubtedly brought about a lot of pressure. The people on the tall pavilion left one after another, completely unable to endure such an oppressive atmosphere. However, since Qing Yutong didn't leave, Tang Yu wouldn't leave even more. However, she also didn't dare to speak loudly, and she didn't even dare to talk to Qing Yutong. Lord Yi is Qing Yutong's brother-in-law. Coming here today is definitely to inspect me. However, with how I am right now, I am definitely a failure, right? Should I go over and greet him? But looking at Lord Ye's expression, it seems like he doesn't seem to be that friendly. What should I do? My entire body feels uncomfortable sitting here. Where would I have the mood to flirt with girls? And I am completely unable to flirt with girls. Qing Yutong was very happy in her heart. Brother-in-law still cares about me. Look. He even ran over here. This stingy guy is really worthy of being the jealous king of the cultivation world. Although he says no, he actually wants it to death in his heart. After a long time, Tang Yu really felt uncomfortable. Her nerves were about to collapse. About that. I still have some matters to take care of at home, so I will be going back first. Tang Yu squeezed out a trace of a smile. I cannot afford to offend the Empress's younger sister. Wrong. She's my woman, you can't afford to offend her. Qing Yutong was also rather embarrassed and she said with a smile, then you should quickly go back. I'm so sorry. Tang Yu just wanted to go home as soon as possible. She didn't want to think about anything else. When passing by Yi Hua, Tang Yu shouted out respectfully, Lord Yi, I will be leaving first. Yi Hua didn't say anything and nodded his head with a calm face. After Tang Yu left, Qing Yutong snorted. Come over. Yi Hua shouted out in a low voice. For the sake of brother-in-law's good performance, I'll be obedient this time and follow your heart. Qing Yutong sat in front of Yi Hua and pouted. Qing Yutong. You're so bold now, going on a blind date. Brother-in-law, you promised it yourself. Qing Yutong said in a low voice. Yi Hua slammed onto the table. You still dare to talk back to me. I really like brother-in-law like this, he's so manly, I love it. It is obviously you, what does it have to do with me? Qing Yutong muttered in a low voice. Yi Hua's expression turned cold, and the two of them instantly disappeared from the pavilion and arrived at Leisure Bar's bedroom. Yi Hua did not hesitate and directly pressed his sister-in-law onto his thigh, then directly gave her a slap. Brother-in-law, it hurts, be gentler. Qing Yutong bit her lips tightly, and that sweet voice of hers really caused Yi Hua's strength to decrease by quite a bit. This sister-in-law of his really knew how to choose the right time to attack when he was full of anger. Yi Hua and Qing Yutong immediately pressed Qing Yutong onto the bed, and Yi Hua and Qing Yutong began to enjoy the pleasure and excitement of having an affair. Brother-in-law, stop for a moment. Qing Yutong shouted out. Not knowing why, when Yi Hua heard Qing Yutong call him brother-in-law, and then such a thing happened, he felt very refreshed. Yi Hua frowned and asked in confusion. Brother-in-law, lie down. Yi Hua wanted to see what kind of tricks this sister-in-law was going to play. Chapter 644. Very comfortable. Yi Hua was a bit stupefied, but what happened next caused Yi Hua to instantly feel excited and comfortable. Yi Hua had also thought about this kind of stimulation before, but he had never mentioned it to Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji before. He felt that it wasn't appropriate, but he would often fantasize about it in his heart, and that feeling would definitely be so great that it would explode. However, what this sister-in-law was doing right now was something that Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji had never done before. I'm very happy. I'm very happy. This little sister-in-law is mine. Damn, it's so comfortable. Not knowing how long had passed, Qing Yutong licked her lips, then asked with a beaming smile, Brother-in-law, is it comfortable? Yutong, your performance is wrong. I like it very much. Yi Hua gave the highest praise to Donghuang Baiji. From the looks of it, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji had never received such praise before. Sob sob sob, I'm so happy. Brother-in-law actually praised me. Qing Yutong was also very excited. To be able to get brother-in-law's praise is truly too hard. Just look at those subordinates of brother-in-law, they are all thinking of ways to get praise. Even big sister and big sister Baiji are the same, they are doing their best to do everything well, all for the sake of getting brother-in-law's praise. Right now, Yi Hua felt that his entire body was feeling very comfortable. I've been holding it in for a long time. Luckily, I have Yutong's help. While hugging onto his sister-in-law's fragrant shoulder, Yi Hua asked curiously, where did you learn this trick from? Qing Yutong hugged onto Yi Hua's waist and said with a beaming smile, how is there a need to learn? Everything is for the sake of serving brother-in-law. And Yutong, it's good that you have this kind of awareness. You didn't waste brother-in-law teaching you for so long. Sob sob sob, as long as brother-in-law is happy. Qing Yutong immediately began acting coquettishly, and Yi Hua enjoyed it very much. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji very rarely act coquettishly in front of him now. In the past they would still act coquettishly a little, but now that they are the mother of 2 children, it is very difficult for them to act coquettishly even for a month. However, the feeling of having a clandestine love affair is still very great. It's no wonder that so many men like it. I, the Supreme Overlord, like it as well. Brother-in-law, there's still time, do you want to do it again? Alright, we'll go back when you're done. Okay, Yihua closed his eyes and placed both of his hands behind his head, enjoying the comfortable feeling that his sister-in-law gave him, very comfortable. Within Voidless Realm, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji had also heard about this news. Xianxia, it seems like us men are interested in Yutong, to the point that we have to personally watch over this blind date. Donghuang Baiji let out a delicate voice, seemingly not really caring about it. However, this was also Qin Yutong. If it was another woman who tried it, they would have already taken out a blade and rushed towards Donghuang Baiji. Xianxia held onto her forehead and said in a low voice, "From the very start, this Yihua never had good intentions towards Yutong. In the past he even said that he wanted me to send condoms to Yutong. Don't you think that this is infuriating?" Donghuang Baiji pushed aside her hair and said lightly, "Xianxia, Yutong has been with Yihua for so long, and right now, every single man would compare Yihua with Yihua. Say Yihua is so outstanding, who else would she like?" That's true, no matter what kind of man is compared to Yihua, they would all feel inferior. Xianxia agreed with what Donghuang Baiji said. "My man is the most outstanding man in the world. That's why, if your sister were to continue competing with Yihua, she would definitely end up alone for the rest of her life. Furthermore, Yutong has been living with us for so long, we are already a family. If she were to really marry out, I would still be a bit worried." Xianxia turned her head around and looked at Donghuang Baiji, then said doubtfully, "Baiji, did you receive something good from my sister? To think that you are actually trying to enlighten me here. How is that possible? Yutong is truly a good girl, not many men are worthy of her." I think that Yihua is the one who came to look for you to persuade her. In the past, Donghuang Baiji wasn't like this, and right now Donghuang Baiji is actually acting as the matchmaker between her sister and her husband. Alright, I won't say any more lest you think that I am a spy." Donghuang Baiji raised her hands and surrendered. In actuality, this was also a suggestion. Xianxia was Qin Yutong's big sister, and this matter still had to depend on whether Xianxia agreed or not. "I heard that the two of them disappeared and I have no idea where they went," Xianxia said in a low voice. Donghuang Baiji was trimming her nails, then said with a smile, "What else can they do? We are not even allowing Yihua to touch them, and Yihua is probably going to find trouble with his sister-in-law. This won't do, I have to go and catch them, this is too outrageous," Xianxia said indignantly. In actuality, she still hadn't thought things through in her heart. From a certain point of view, if Yutong were to marry Yihua, Xianxia would be at ease. At the very least, Yihua would treat Yutong with sincerity. If it was someone else, Xianxia wouldn't be able to say anything. Right now her sister had undergone an earth-shattering change, who knows what other people are plotting. However, just as Xianxia was preparing to go and catch them, Yihua appeared in front of the door. "You two haven't slept yet?" Yihua said faintly. His expression was very normal, as if nothing had happened. Xianxia's expression changed and immediately a smile appeared on her face. She pulled Yihua to sit on a chair, then lightly massaged Yihua. "Yihua, where did you go just now?" Xianxia probed. If Yihua didn't even have this bit of awareness, then what was the point of having an affair? He would have been caught long ago. "I didn't go anywhere, I just strolled around with Yutong and taught her how to win over a man's favorable impression." While saying this, Yihua couldn't help but think back to the scene just now. "Yutong sure put in a lot of effort to win over me." Xianxia went into a slight daze. "My husband isn't walking the normal path. Actually, Baiji and I had discussed it just now. We feel that we won't be at ease if Yutong were to marry someone else, so we wanted to ask for your opinion." "Hehe, if I were to fall for your trick, I would be chopped up during the live stream." "What opinion?" Yihua asked curiously. "Didn't I tell you before, I will just let Yutong follow you?" Xianxia said tenderly, as if she was forcing Yihua to marry her. To be honest, Yihua's heart was slightly moved, but the answer that came to his mind was, "Don't fall for my trick, Xianxia is lying again. I have taught you so many times, lying is a bad habit. You have to learn from me, never lie to others." "What kind of crooked idea is this? Yutong is my sister-in-law and you are even Yutong's big sister. This is too outrageous. I have to properly criticize you, hurry up and dispel this idea of yours." Yihua shouted out coldly. "Do you think that I, the Supreme Overlord, don't know about your little tricks?" However, what Yihua didn't expect was that Donghuang Baiji actually approved of the idea. And although Xianxia didn't approve of the idea, at the very least she didn't oppose it just now. Xianxia was a bit unsure of what her husband was thinking. Is he really not feeling anything towards my little sister? Or is he just pretending? As expected of a man who once won the Best Actor award, to be able to even deceive his wife. Chapter 645. As for why she was sincere, it was naturally because of Yi Hua's acting. If just now Yi Hua had directly expressed that he liked his sister-in-law, Xianxia would definitely be unhappy. However, right now Xianxia felt that her husband didn't like Yu Tong. On one hand, Xianxia was happy, on the other hand, Xianxia was also worried about the issue of who her younger sister would belong to. In fact, just like what Baiji had said, Yu Tong's current condition was so good. If Yu Tong didn't have any feelings for Yu Tong, what would happen if she was cheated by a man? Thinking about the consequences of that, Xianxia became even more worried. I might as well give it to Yi Hua. With this I can be more at ease. In the end, this was also a kind of habit. Qin Yutong had always been living together with everyone, and Qin Yutong had a kind of feeling that it wasn't a big deal to have her by herself. If Yi Hua were to know what his wife was thinking about, he would definitely agree to it. His sister-in-law is truly too good at making me feel comfortable. Hearing Xianxia's words, Yi Hua didn't believe it from start to finish. You still dare to say that you won't set me up? Every single word that you said is filled with tricks. Xianxia, we are husband and wife, can't you use less tricks and be more sincere? What I have decided will not change. Don't ever mention it again. Yi Hua snorted coldly, then swung his hand and walked away as if he was very angry, leaving behind his two wives who had a dumbfounded look on their faces. Donghuang Baiji seemed to have also been deceived by Yi Hua's acting skills. Seems like it won't work. Yi Hua doesn't seem to like Yu Tong. How is that possible? Donghuang Baiji said in astonishment. I don't think this should be the case. Yu Tong's appearance is absolutely beautiful, and she is not the slightest bit inferior to me and Xianxia. Her figure is also very good, and yet Yi Hua actually doesn't like her. Was the sun not going to come out? Xianxia was also confused. Yi Hua actually doesn't like Yu Tong. This doesn't make sense. Is it because we forced him too hard that Yi Hua no longer has any feelings towards women? Xianxia asked curiously. This question caused Donghuang Baiji to frown. You don't have feelings for women? Doesn't that mean he doesn't have feelings for me? This was not a good thing. These few days, Yi Hua went to sleep with the children and didn't sleep with us anymore. Donghuang Baiji said gravely. Now that I think about it, there is indeed a problem. Could it be that Yi Hua's sexual orientation changed? Originally, I was already worried about my little sister's matter, and now I have to worry about Yi Hua as well. Did he become stupid from holding it in? I'll go and see what Yu Tong says. Xianxia felt that this was a big matter. I mustn't let Yi Hua suffocate to death. I and Baiji definitely won't be able to satisfy Yi Hua, not even for a few months. At that time, if Yi Hua were to be forced to go out and look for other women, it would be even more troublesome. If it really doesn't work, I can only let Yu Tong do it. A family member is always better than an outsider. At that time, if a woman were to suddenly appear and fight for favor with me, just thinking about it made Xianxia's scalp go numb. Then I'll go with you. Donghuang Baiji seemed to have the same thoughts as Xianxia. It's good for us to benefit our own people, but it's impossible for us to benefit outsiders. The two women directly rushed towards Qin Yutong's palace. Right now, Qin Yutong was currently bathing and changing her clothes, and she was humming a little tune, and she was very happy. When he thought of his brother-in-law's joyful expression, he felt happy. It seemed that he was very powerful to be able to make his brother-in-law happy. Lol. Qin Yutong lied inside the wooden barrel and carefully wiped her body, giving her brother-in-law the most beautiful image of herself. Along with the sound of the door being pushed open, Qin Yutong's little face immediately became nervous. Seems like Big Sister and Big Sister Baiji came. Damn, brother-in-law wouldn't have confessed, right? Are they here to kill me? I'm so nervous, brother-in-law, save me. Your sister-in-law is about to die. Yutong, are you bathing? Xianxia shouted from outside. That's right, big sister, what's the matter? As expected of a celebrity, Qin Yutong's acting skills were still on par. Oh, you bathe first, I'll talk to you later. All right. Qin Yutong was feeling restless right now. Talk to me? Talk to me? Could it be that I have already been discovered? Luckily, I had just finished comparing my testimony with brother-in-law. I'll listen to what they want to ask first. In any case, I won't admit to anything even if I'm beaten to death. I will resolutely resist their tricks. 10+ minutes later, Qin Yutong was finally done bathing and walked out of the bathroom while wearing light pajamas. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji sat on top of the jade chair and looked at Qing Yutong's walking posture. There doesn't seem to be any problem. As expected, I was thinking too much. Seems like Yihua really doesn't like Yutong. This is going to be difficult. Seems like I can only ask Yutong what she thinks. Big sister Baiji, is there anything going on so late at night? Qing Yutong asked curiously, then obediently sat at the side. How can I not be obedient? I was just having an affair with their husbands just now. Wow, this is so exciting. Xianxia asked curiously, where did you go after the blind date? As expected, she came to ask. Luckily, brother-in-law is quick-witted. Brother-in-law and I strolled around for a bit, then we came back. Qing Yutong said with a faint smile. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji took a look at each other. Seems like they didn't lie, but at the same time they came to some sort of agreement. Of course, this kind of thing still needs to be asked by Xianxia. Donghuang Baiji won't ask. After all, she is Qing Yutong's big sister. Yutong, big sister wants to ask you something. And big sister, you can ask. Yutong promises that I won't lie. Qing Yutong knew it. Big sister must have found out something. Brother-in-law is too careless. How did big sister find out about it? Xianxia nodded her head. Yutong, big sister knows that your standards are very high now, and you don't like ordinary men. What does big sister mean by this? Is big sister not intending to go on a blind date for me? This is also a good thing. I originally didn't plan to go on a blind date. That's right, that's why I am also very depressed. Qing Yutong said while putting on an act. The reason why big sister came here today is to ask you, what do you think of your brother-in-law? Xianxia felt that she was rather strange. I don't seem to feel uncomfortable asking this question. Does this count as sharing happiness with him? What a good sister. My brother-in-law? What do you think of him? Qing Yutong was a bit confused, completely unable to understand what big sister meant. Xianxia didn't know what to say, and Donghuang Baiji said with a smile. It's like this, your big sister is afraid that you will be bullied when you get married, so she wants you to marry your brother-in-law, but I don't know what you mean by that. Damn, this is a trick. This trick of yours is too deep, isn't it? No matter what, I am still your little sister. To actually trick me like this, if I were to agree to it right now, wouldn't that mean that I am admitting to having an affair with brother-in-law? Do you think that I, Qing Yutong, am stupid to test me? Brother-in-law must have been tested just now, so he came to look for me. Qing Yutong's expression could be seen immediately changing, and she said coquettishly, you all? How can you all have such thoughts? He is my brother-in-law. This is the fall of morality. Where am I supposed to put my face in the future? Sister-in-law hooking up with brother-in-law. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji didn't expect that Qing Yutong's reaction would be so intense. Chapter 646. Big sister, you don't need to say anything. It is impossible between brother-in-law and me. You two better dispel this terrifying thought and don't talk about it in the future. If not, I will get angry. Qing Yutong had a righteous look on her face, but in her heart she was thinking, you two actually want to use this method to make me admit defeat. You are looking down on me too much. Xianxia asked seriously, Yutong, do you dislike Yihua that much? What's so good about brother-in-law? He has a bad temper. He likes to hit people and he is not gentle at all. Other than being handsome and strong, he has no other good points. Although Qing Yutong said that in her heart brother-in-law is the best man in the world. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji didn't expect that Yihua was actually like this in Qing Yutong's heart. However, Qing Yutong's description was rather accurate. Yihua was indeed like this. Xianxia shook her head helplessly and asked for one last time, Yutong, big sister is not joking with you. I really feel that you and Yihua are quite good. Big sister is making her final struggle. She is actually tempting me. Big sister, I am not joking with you. Brother-in-law is not my type. Qing Yutong said resolutely, feeling very pleased in her heart. I will not fall for your tricks. This time Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji had no other way. Big sister understands you should rest early. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji stood up and prepared to leave. Qing Yutong warned again, in the future don't talk about it anymore. I don't like brother-in-law. The two women nodded their heads and left. Xianxia, what should we do? Yutong doesn't like Yihua. What if Yihua were to fool around outside and bring another woman back? Donghuang Baiji was a bit anxious. Xianxia was also rather vexed. Let's think of another way. We can only do this. After Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji left, Yihua appeared in Qing Yutong's room. Seeing that brother-in-law suddenly appeared, Qing Yutong immediately ran over and hugged onto Yihua's waist. Brother-in-law, Luckily I am smart, if not we would have definitely been discovered. And they seem to be suspicious of us. Yihua said gravely. After asking me they came to ask about his sister-in-law. It could be seen how suspicious they were. What should I do then if I get discovered by them? Wouldn't they definitely chop me into pieces? Qing Yutong expressed that she was shivering and begged her brother-in-law to comfort her. Yihua patted onto his sister-in-law's head. You don't have to worry too much, no matter what, Qingya is still your big sister. Brother-in-law, if you kiss Yutong once I will have the courage to do it. Qing Yutong pouted her small mouth and asked for a kiss. Yihua didn't appreciate Qing Yutong's words and knocked onto Qing Yutong's forehead. Brother-in-law, what are you doing? It hurts. What are you talking about? What did you say just now? Is my temper really that bad? Yihua had heard his sister-in-law's words, and he had simply said that he was completely useless. Sob, 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 I'm just spouting nonsense. Brother-in-law, don't be angry. If you say that again I'll teach you a lesson. Yes, 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 I promise I won't say anymore. Can we kiss now? Yihua had no choice but to give his sister-in-law a kiss. In the end, his sister-in-law's desire was not satisfied. Brother-in-law, come to the bed, Yutong will make you comfortable. Yihua swallowed his saliva. This kind of thing is addictive. Let's do it tomorrow. I will go back first now so that they won't come and check the room. In actuality, Yihua had never been worried or nervous about anything. Ever since he had a clandestine affair with his sister-in-law, these two emotions appeared. He discovered that these two emotions were very refreshing and also very novel. Qing Yutong also knew about this and she said faintly, then when will it be tomorrow? I will wait for brother-in-law. Yihua was very satisfied with his sister-in-law's attitude. I will come and look for you. All right, Yutong will wait for brother-in-law to come over then. Yihua pinched onto his sister-in-law's face, then disappeared from the room. Looking at her brother-in-law leaving, Qing Yutong had a bashful look on her face. Brother-in-law is so handsome, I like brother-in-law. However, if the two of them were to know that Qingya and Donghuang Baiji weren't joking around, would they be stupefied? Yihua returned to the children's palace. The two little fellows had already finished bathing and were waiting for their father to come over and accompany them to sleep. Why aren't you two asleep yet? Looking at his two children, Yihua said with a light smile. Yi Yan said with a childish voice, Yan is waiting for Daddy. Ali is waiting too. All right, after Daddy finishes bathing, Daddy will come over and accompany you two to sleep. Dong Huangli immediately urged, Daddy, hurry up and bathe, little brother and I are still waiting to listen to a story. All right. Right now, Yihua's relationship with the children was getting better and better. The two little fellows were no longer infatuated with their mother. Not long later, Yihua walked out of the bedroom while wearing his pajamas. After that, he laid on the bed and the two little fellows snuggled up to him. Daddy, hurry up and tell Yenner a story. Yesterday you told Yenner about the story where the skeleton fought against the serpent men. Will the skeleton die? The serpent men are so powerful. Yi Yan said with a worried look on his face. Dong Huangli, who was at the side, said, That's right, the skeleton is so strong, I hope that he won't die. That's right, Yihua was telling his experiences to the children from the beginning to the end. Even Qingya and Donghuang Baiji didn't know about this matter, but from the tone of the two little fellows, they were able to tell. Back then Yihua was in a very dangerous situation. Yihua's strength wasn't something that he was born with, it was something that he had gone through many life and death battles. Yihua even named his story Legend of the Skeleton. Furthermore, he even wanted to publish his story into a book. The sales of his story should be pretty good. I might as well make a serial web novel. How a skeleton became unstoppable. While hugging onto the two children, Yihua said lightly, Of course the skeleton won't die. No matter how dangerous it was, he persevered. Even if he had to clench his teeth, he still had to defeat opponents that were stronger than him and temper himself. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan listened very seriously. Just as Yihua was about to continue, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji suddenly walked into the bedroom. The three people who were on the bed immediately looked over. The two little fellows seemed to know what was going on, and they were tightly hugging onto their father's hand, not letting their mothers snatch their father away. Seeing that their husband and the two children were talking about something, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji revealed a happy smile. I didn't disturb your date, right? Qingya said with a smile. Yi Yan pouted his small mouth. Mommy, Daddy is about to reach the crucial part of the story, you two should quickly go back and rest. That's right, Ollie won't let Daddy go. Dong Huangli directly hugged onto her father's arm. This caused Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji to not know whether to laugh or cry. From the looks of it, I am the bad woman who snatched away their man. Dong Huang Baiji looked at her daughter and said tenderly, Ollie, can you lend Daddy to Mommy for a night? Just for a night. Chapter 647. Although the two little guys were unwilling, they were still very obedient. Yi Yen pouted her small mouth and said, then I can only do it for one night, if not Yenner will cry, and I can only give my mother one night. Dong Huangli appeared to be even more serious. Dong Huangli seemed to be saying, if you want to snatch my father away, Dong Huangli won't let you. Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji were truly helpless. Just who gave birth to you two? The two mothers also agreed with a smile. Only then did the two little fellows compromise, but their little mouths were almost covered with oil bottles. Daddy, remember to come tomorrow. Yenner will be waiting for you. Ollie is also waiting for Daddy. The reminders of the two little fellows could still be heard ringing out in the room, causing Yi Hua to feel that it was funny. Looking at his wife who was beside him, Yi Hua asked curiously, what's wrong? I suddenly came over. Let's talk on the bed. Xianxia said. Nowadays even chatting has to go to bed. After quite a while, Yi Hua carried his two wives and laid on the comfortable big bed. Of course he wouldn't do anything. Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji wanted to see what kind of attitude their husband had towards this matter. Speak, what's the matter? Yi Hua knew that they wouldn't come and look for him for no reason. Xianxia lightly caressed onto her husband's chest and said earnestly, Yi Hua, this time I am serious really. If I believe you, then I'll be a fool. Xianxia, if you still want to talk about Qin Yutong's matter, I will leave right now. Yi Hua shouted out gravely. It's fine that you tricked me once, but now you are doing it again. Seeing that their husband was angry, the two wives also cowered. However, Dong Huang Baiji asked, Yi Hua, in actuality Yutong is quite a good person. When it is inconvenient for us, she can also take care of you. You all still don't know, right? Right now, Yutong is already taking care of me and she is even more sensible than you all. Enough. Yi Hua berated angrily. His acting skills are really good, scaring the two wives to the point that they are shivering and no longer mentioning about it anymore. Yi Hua discovered that his tone seemed to have gone a bit overboard. Thus he consoled in a low voice, Yutong is only my sister-in-law, don't think about other things anymore. Xianxia said, Yi Hua, we all know that, but we are afraid that you, what are you afraid of? Yi Hua asked. Dong Huang Baiji made up her mind, we are afraid that you will go out to look for other women and then bring them back. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched. They are actually thinking about such a thing. There must be something wrong with their brains, right? You disappoint me. Let me ask you, is there a better woman than you in this world? Would I look for another woman? What a joke. Yi Hua snorted in disdain. Indeed, Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji are the most beautiful women in the entire universe. They are beautiful from head to toe and every single piece of their skin is of the golden ratio. Just one question, what other woman could be compared to her? Of course, other than his sister-in-law Qin Yutong. When Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji heard what Xianxia said, they felt very happy in their hearts. To be able to obtain their husband's approval was an incomparable honor. Finally, Yi Hua let out a sigh of relief and dispelled their worries. If I were to get caught by my wife, I would be screwed. I, the Supreme Overlord, am about to place my face on the ground and rub it against my face. Having a clandestine affair with my sister-in-law, just thinking about it makes my blood boil. The more Yi Hua thought about it, the more he went off topic. The situation caused by Seoul leaving these few days was very strong, and even the Justice Alliance and Peace Association were unable to do anything about it. Furthermore, the internet was also filled with people scolding Seoul leaving these few days. Right now it is about time to wrap things up. I, God raising heaven and earth, wanted to ruin Voidless Realm's reputation, and this time I shall let the world see without Voidless Realm, who else can you seek help from? Prepare to pull in the net. Although you, God raising heaven and earth, won against me a few times, I, the Supreme Overlord, will immediately make a comeback. Let's see what else you can do then. Saturday, if it was any other day, it would be a good day for people to go out and play. However, in Nanyang City, there was not a single man to be seen on the streets. It was as if all the men had disappeared and all the men were women. Today was also the first time that Justice Alliance and Peace Association cooperated together. They were preparing to capture Seoul leaving, and they couldn't continue to be so passive anymore. For this, The two organizations invited reporters over, seemingly wanting to use this capture operation to wash away the humiliation they suffered. The idea is rather good, but it's unknown if it will succeed or not. In this operation, Bai Cixin and Zhou Yi were only the commanders behind the scenes, and they didn't participate in the operation. The weakest of the people who participated in the operation were experts with 2 moons and above. There were even experts with 3 moons, and this time their equipment was very good, and they even used ancient godly items. Moreover, there was a man hidden in the group, and that man was God raising heaven and earth. No one knew about this matter. God raising heaven and earth didn't want to be exposed, and thus he hid in the group and took the opportunity to kill Soul Leaving, and this operation would be considered finished. This woman has brought too much negative influence to the two organizations, and this time I must definitely get rid of her. I can't let this matter drag on any longer, otherwise my plan will be ruined. At this time, Bai Cixin and Wang Debao were sitting in the meeting room giving orders, and of course Zhu Yi was also there. Recently, Zhu Yi was also a bit puzzled. His masters actually seemed to have disappeared and they didn't respond at all. He looked for them, but they didn't reply. This is really strange. Wife, what do you think God raising heaven and earth is planning to do this time? Sending so many people, isn't this completely courting death? Wang Debao asked in a low voice. This time, the operation to capture Soul Leaving was proposed by God raising heaven and earth, and the people were also arranged according to God raising heaven and earth's arrangements. Even if these people were very powerful, they were only targeting a few people, and Soul Leaving definitely wouldn't be able to defeat them. Bai Cixin also didn't know what God raising heaven and earth meant, and she couldn't figure out God raising heaven and earth's plan at all. At the same time, she didn't want to guess who knew what it was for this time to send a group of people to die. It was really chilling. We just need to do our job properly. Just as Bai Cixin finished speaking, the sound of tapping came from the side. Zhou Yi slapped the 8848 titanium phone in his hand, as if he was a little impatient. F***C, it's actually broken. Zhu Yi looked at the phone and exclaimed. And you said it wouldn't break. It's only been a while and it's already broken. This is too much. The husband and wife looked at Zhu Yi talking to himself and shook their heads helplessly. A broken phone could make him so angry it was really quite speechless. And today Soul Leaving came out to kill men as usual. If someone observed carefully, Soul Leaving's eyes seemed to be warm, not as cold as before, and he was even wearing a headset in his ears. Little Soul Hun, pay attention to your expression. How does this look like you hate men? It's completely like you're in passion. Dou Fushi said while holding a pair of binoculars. Soul Leaving said in a low voice. Little Dodo, we are in love, it's really comfortable. Chapter 648. You are the one who said it, I want all kinds of combo. Alright, any combo is fine, whatever you say. This is what I like. Dodo, wait for me to finish killing, then we will go home. Dou Fushi, I really hope that this mission will end soon, I really can't take it anymore. Just when he finished thinking, Wei Chang's voice transmission came over. Dou Fushi. Uncle Wei, do you have any instructions? His honor is preparing to pull in the net, remind him. Wei Chang said gravely. Yes. After cutting off the connection with Wei Chang, Dou Fushi became excited. This mission can finally end, Little Soul can no longer go and kill men. Little Dou Fushi, what's going on? Soul Departing asked curiously. Little Soul, it's time to pull in the net, get ready. Really? I can finally stop and lie on the bed every day, I'm so excited. Dou Fushi. It seems like stopping isn't a good thing. However, Dou Fushi didn't know what his honor had planned, he only told me to inform Soul Depari to cooperate with him. Originally, Dou Fushi was still wondering if he and Soul Depari were putting on a show, but it seems like that isn't the case. Yihua naturally had his own plans. If he wanted to change Voidless Realm's image, what he needed was a big scene. However, this big scene has nothing to do with me, it still needs Voidless Realm to make a move, only then will it be interesting. Soul Depari walked around the amusement park board, and from time to time, someone would scream and run away, wishing that they could grow another leg out of their body. Soul Depari yawned, seemingly a bit tired. He didn't sleep well last night. In actuality, until now, Soul Depari still didn't know why he was so infatuated with Dou Fushi. In any case, as long as I see him, I want to get close to him. He is like a magnet, attracting me, making me unable to resist him, making me take the initiative. This is something that has never happened before. Although this matter is very strange and absurd, Sol Depari came to a conclusion which made him happy. Humming a song, Sol Depari slowly walked around. When Dou Fusher heard the voice that was transmitted into his ears, he couldn't do anything about it. Sol Depari was indeed obedient. She did all the housework and even his clothes were washed by Sol Depari. However, other than one thing, he couldn't do anything about it. I believe that everyone should know what it is. This woman wants to get up, she wants to get up, she wants to get up, she wants to get up. Suddenly, Dou Fusher felt an oppressive aura moving in his direction. Li Hun also sensed it and stopped in his tracks, looking up at the sky. A group of black dots appeared in the sky. It was very obvious. Boom boom boom. One by one the figures landed on the ground, causing the blue stone on the ground to crack. A few helicopters were hovering in the sky, broadcasting live. At this moment many people were probably watching the live broadcast. After all, this was a big event between two organizations. Whether they could get rid of the scourge for the people depended on this wave. In the squares of all the major cities, Soul Leaving's figure appeared on the huge screens. Many people were looking at the screen. Although the Soul Leaving killer was a man, it was undeniable that this woman was truly beautiful. Sigh, I really can't bear to see such a woman get killed. What a waste. Then go and try. If you don't kill her, she will kill you. Brother, I'm just sighing. After all, there are far too few beauties like her. Look at her expression. She's not afraid of the Righteous Alliance or the Peace Association at all. That's right. If this kind of woman wasn't a homicidal maniac, she would truly be a heroine among women. What a pity. Everyone stood on the square and spoke one after another. Some people expressed that it was a pity while some expressed that it was a pity. Especially the men of Nanyang City. They were all thinking, hurry up and get rid of this witch. If not, I won't even dare to go out anymore. However, Soul Leaving Killer seemed to have realized something and appeared very calm. If I can't do it myself, there is still little Daodu behind me. Therefore there is no need for me to be afraid. However, what about these small things? Gonging? Fan Fong Yue? Drinking? Eating Jiling Mi? Bowing? Playing with Huan Di? Knocking green onion? Fan Fina Laochu Ginseng Bolt? Rose spitting beach deep forgiveness? Thinking up to here, Soul Leaving Killer's gaze began to change. It was no longer filled with warmth, instead, it was filled with cold-bloodedness. This time there weren't a lot of people from both sides, there were only around 100 people in total. However, all of them were elites. This could be seen from the moon on their chests. A man could be seen walking out and shouted, "Witch, it's still not too late for you to surrender now." Soul Leaving Killer chuckled and said in a low voice, "If you kneel down and lick my high heels, perhaps I can still agree to your request." Of course, Dou Fusher heard Soul Leaving Killer's words and shouted, "Little Soul Leaving Killer is domineering. As expected of my, Dou Fusher's woman." However, when Soul Leaving Killer said the word lick, Dou Fusher started to daydream. How dare you? You're about to die, yet you still dare to spout such arrogant words. Today will be righteous and kill you, you demoness. Soul Leaving Killer coldly snorted, "Righteous? Then let me take a look. What kind of righteous path are you people?" A ferocious aura spread out from Soul Leaving Killer's delicate body and instantly spread out in all directions. The surrounding buildings started to shake. The team of 100 people also felt Soul Leaving Killer's aura. This witch was indeed very powerful. Qing Tiandi, who was in the team, also slightly frowned. This Soul Leaving Killer was indeed very powerful. He did not know if he could get rid of her. Right now he could only give it his all. He could not let a woman ruin his game of chess. Last time, Soul Leaving Killer wasn't able to display her true strength at all, because she was in a poisoned state right from the start. And right now Soul Leaving Killer was in her perfect state. Right now even Qing Tiandi was worried if he would be a match for Soul Leaving Killer or not. Within Voidless Realm, Yi Hua was holding onto a tablet and looking at the live broadcast. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth, while Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were leaning against each other. "Yi Hua, will this plan work?" Donghuang Baiji asked curiously. Yi Hua stretched out his hand and flicked the Empress's forehead. The Empress pouted her small mouth, expressing that she was not going to let Yi Hua off. "Even I don't believe in her. Tell me, do you think that you deserve to be beaten or not?" Yi Hua said faintly. Qingya looked at Soul Leaving Killer on the tablet and said lightly, "This woman is very powerful. If Baiji doesn't make a move, it doesn't seem like it will work, right?" Yi Hua laughed mysteriously. This caused Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji to be very puzzled. Our husband would never do something that he wasn't confident in, and right now he is actually so relaxed. There can only be one result. Yi Hua, this soul-leaving killer can't be one of your people, right? Donghuang Baiji asked in astonishment. Yi Hua said faintly, in the past this soul-leaving killer wasn't, but right now she is more or less. What do you mean? Xianxia asked curiously. Dou Fushi. Yi Hua mentioned. Chapter 649. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji both knew that their husband loved to be a matchmaker, and he loved to play matchmaker for his subordinates even more. As long as he found a good lady, he would definitely think of his subordinates. This idea was not wrong, but wasn't it a little too enthusiastic? Which boss could reach this point? This time Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji misunderstood Yi Hua. Yi Hua didn't go and act as a matchmaker for Dou Fushi and Soul Departing. Even Yi Hua didn't expect that Dou Fushi and Soul Departing would be together. Do you all think that I have the time to do that? Yi Hua asked faintly. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji nodded their heads, indicating that you are indeed very free. Yi Hua shook his head helplessly and said lightly, this time it wasn't me, it was them. Donghuang Baiji cried out in surprise, what happened? Quickly tell us about it. That's right, that's right. Battle Floating World looks so ordinary. This departing soul is so cold and arrogant. Why would he like Battle Floating World? You two gossipy women, you even want to inquire about my subordinates' private matters. Yi Hua laughed lightly. Say it, say it. Yes, yes, yes. Tell me quickly. Towards the two wives acting coquettishly, Yi Hua was completely helpless and he couldn't stand it the most. Right now he really wanted to place the two of them on the bed and rub against them with all his might. It was Soul Departing who slept with Dou Fushi, that's all I know. Upon hearing that, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji's faces were filled with disbelief. Looking at Li Hun on the tablet, she doesn't look like a woman who would take the initiative to sleep with a man. You really can't judge a book by its cover. It's a new world view. At the venue. At this moment astral winds were howling, and the surrounding houses were on the verge of collapse under the astral winds. Some of the roofs were even lifted up. A 5-colored divine sword appeared in Soul Captive's hand, and the aura of fear became even more violent. The blue sky was instantly enveloped by dark clouds and rumbling sounds rang out. The helicopter in the air immediately flew higher, not daring to get too close, but the image that was transmitted was shocking. No one had expected this demoness to be so powerful. She did not do anything, but just standing there was already a mountain of pressure. Moreover, this was through the screen. It was even more terrifying now. That's right, hundreds of people felt the true terror of the demoness. It turned out that under that beautiful face, there was such a terrifying strength hidden. Qing Tian, who was in the team, had a deep look in his eyes. He frowned slightly. This was a little tricky. Get into formation. With a shout from one of the men, hundreds of people instantly dispersed. Sky-bearing secret formation. In an instant, the 100 cultivators started to form hand seals. Boundless spiritual qi emanated from each of their bodies, fighting against the aura of the soul detachment. It seemed that these people had also come prepared. This kind of array formation was not something that could be cultivated in a day or two. Everyone's output of spiritual energy had to reach a balance. Otherwise, the foundation of the array formation would be destroyed. The Dharma eye of this array formation was none other than the heaven and earth pillar. With him as the eye, it was quite safe. Li Hun did not move the 5-colored divine sword in his hand. He did not even take any defensive measures. A faint curtain of light appeared around Soulfly's body and gradually expanded. Strange runes gradually appeared on the ground, and the dense spirit qi also became stronger as the formation took shape. Seeing this scene, Qing Tiandi's lips curled into a smile. He loved people who underestimated their enemies the most because they didn't know how tragic the consequences would be. Ha! The 100 people shouted angrily. Their loud voices soared into the sky and even pierced through the black clouds above, forming a white cave. Suddenly, a tentacle-like face suddenly appeared on the formation. In the blink of an eye, Li Hun was completely wrapped up. It looked like an Asian binding. In the sky, a huge treasure sword slowly formed as the spiritual pressure gathered. A terrifying pressure swept across the ground, and the scene was like the end of the world. At this moment, all the facilities in the amusement park collapsed. At this time the host could not help but exclaim, "Dear viewers! A treasure sword formed from spiritual qi is gathering in the sky. This aura is enough to kill the female demon below." Facing such an array formation, the female demon is completely defenseless. The Righteous Alliance and the Peace Association are really the saviors. Let's give them a thumbs up. When the people in the plaza saw this scene, they already knew the result. This array formation was too powerful. It did not give anyone a chance to survive. First, it tied her up, then it used the treasure sword. This sword seemed to be able to pierce through the entire earth, let alone a woman's body. Soul Detachment slightly raised his head and looked at the treasure sword in the sky. The corner of his mouth curled into a smile that no one knew. Dou Fushi, who was hiding far away, also shouted through the earpiece, "Little Soul Detachment, stop playing around. Be careful. Little Dodo, don't you know my strength?" Dou Fushi was speechless. Soul Detachment's strength was indeed very strong. Even I could only lie down. In the end, this was all because of Dou Fushi's bullsh*t. The unknown black gas that was brought out by Dou Fushi affected Soul Detachment's body. At the same time, it affected Soul Detachment's strength. Wei Chang's black gas was not just ordinarily powerful. It was able to turn a person from level 0 to level 100. The Green and Red brothers were a good example. The treasure sword in the sky had already formed, and it was emitting a scorching aura. The treasure sword that was formed from spiritual qi was also emitting a resplendent radiance. The entire scene looked as if the world was being saved, and everyone who saw the scene was filled with excitement. The 100 people shouted again, "Destroy." Everyone pointed their fingers at Soul Detachment, who was at the center of the array formation. The treasure sword in the sky moved. The tip of the sword pierced through the air and created sparks. A terrifying pressure rushed towards Soul Detachment. Soul Detachment's beautiful hair immediately fluttered in the air, but Soul Detachment was still unmoved. Along with the speed at which the treasure sword was descending, the treasure sword gradually became smaller, turning into the size of an ordinary longsword. Although the treasure sword had become smaller, the spiritual qi around it had become even more turbulent. Dou Fushi shouted worriedly through the earpiece, "Little Soul Detachment, quickly dodge, it's dangerous." Soul Detachment ignored Dou Fushi and continued to straighten his chest. Everyone's eyes were fixated on the scene, waiting for the scene to start cheering. The treasure sword finally descended, and with everyone's hope, it pierced towards Soul Detachment's chest. Everyone held their breaths and stared fixedly at the scene. The white spiritual sword came into contact with Soul Detachment's chest. This scene froze on the big screens in all of the public squares, and everyone immediately started cheering. Success. The witch has finally been killed. Men don't need to be afraid anymore. They can stand up and continue to masturbate. Waves of cheers swept through all of the public squares. People hugged each other and celebrated crazily, and couples stood on the streets and kissed passionately. They could finally walk on the streets openly, and they wouldn't have to worry about the witch descending from the sky to kill them. However, just when everyone was celebrating, the joyful expression on their faces froze, because something strange appeared on the screen. Chapter 650. At this moment, the spirit sword was like a piece of paper, colliding with Li Hun's chest, and the huge inertia caused the spirit sword to be compressed into a ball. Then, it fell to the ground without making any sound. Everyone stared blankly at the screen, unable to believe everything in front of them. Such a powerful sword actually had no effect. It was like air in front of the demoness. This demoness was only wearing an ordinary long dress. It was impossible to tell what kind of armor she was wearing, yet she was able to block the greatsword with just her body. Was she even human? All the men were in despair. God wanted to exterminate men. When some girls saw such a scene, they immediately pounced into their boyfriend's embrace and cried bitterly. Why didn't the heavens take back the witch? If the witch doesn't die, my boyfriends will die. When Yihua saw this scene, he first went into a slight daze and soon after he laughed out loud. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji still don't know what kind of personality men have. He loved watching such scenes the most, especially those expressions of despair. I like this departed soul. Not bad. Yihua looked at Li Hun, who was shown on the screen. This expression, this gaze, it is truly somewhat similar to the main body. To be able to receive a white blade on his chest, formidable. I'm going to go and properly praise this soul departing, he has done a great job. However, Yi Hua immediately felt the killing intent coming from the side. What do you like? Say it again. Xianxia said tenderly. To actually say that he likes his subordinate's wife in front of me, does he even have a bottom line? Dong Huang Baiji snorted. The two women were very jealous. They would rather hear Yi Hua say that he likes Yu Tong than to hear Yi Hua say that he likes other women. The main thing was that the pretentiousness displayed by Li Hun caused the two women to be a bit surprised. From the looks of it, I have never done something like this before. Seeing how happy Yi Hua is smiling, the two women couldn't help but feel unhappy in their hearts. My wife is getting jealous, my husband, do as you see fit. Yi Hua coughed lightly, expressing that he was a bit embarrassed. I'm just sighing with emotion. The expression that this soul has displayed is quite similar to the main body. Dong Huang Baiji pouted her cherry lips, then said coquettishly, if you still say that you like other women in the future, I will go on a hunger strike. Me too. Xianxia echoed. How old are you? Why are you still fasting like Yenner and Ali? It's none of your business. You're not allowed to like other women anyway. Alright, I, the Supreme Overlord, will not talk about it anymore in the future, alright? Yi Hua was helpless. To think that you all still dare to say that I, the Supreme Overlord, am jealous, but aren't you all the same? Hearing what Dong Huang Baiji said, Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji immediately beamed with joy. The two of them kissed their husbands sweetly, then continued watching the movie. Yi Hua sighed with emotion in his heart. Seems like I and Yu Tong will have to continue having an affair. These two women don't even allow me to talk about it, let alone do it. At this moment, Wandering Soul yawned again as if he was very sleepy. Is this your righteous path? Li Hun said coolly. Qing Tian was shocked. This formation actually had no effect on soul detaching, it shouldn't be. Even if an expert were to be reborn, facing such a formation would only result in death. However, this woman was actually able to block the white blade on her chest. How was this possible? It didn't make sense at all. Qing Tian wasn't the only one who was surprised. Hundreds of people were dumbfounded. Under such a huge attack, this woman wasn't injured at all. She even yawned and taunted them as if the attack was just a tickle to her. Li Hun narrowed his eyes. I'll show you what is the true righteous path. Li Hun could be seen loosening her grip on the multicolored godly sword. The sword didn't land on the ground and was instead floating in the air. Thoughtless severing sun. Li Hun's alluring little mouth slowly spat out. The multicolored godly sword instantly blossomed with light, and everyone couldn't help but narrow their eyes. However, just like that, tens of people fell from the sky while being covered in blood. The multicolored godly sword was like a bullet that could track its target, and it pierced through every single person's body. Facing such an attack, everyone present was completely unable to do anything. As the number of people decreased, the formation instantly dissipated. Li Hun swung her hand, and while listening to the sound of people falling from the sky, Li Hun slightly closed her beautiful eyes, seemingly enjoying this moment very much. In the blink of an eye, all 100 people fell onto the ground, and their blood was like a pool of blood. Meanwhile, the multicolored godly sword returned to Li Hun's hand. Righteous path, that is just a plaything under my high heels. Li Hun sneered. When Dou Fusher heard what Li Hun said, he felt as if his entire body was about to combust, and he really wanted to press Little Soul onto the bed and rub her against him. Furthermore, I didn't expect that Little Soul would have such a strong personality. Is this my woman? F***K. I, Dou Fusher, am known to have dug up countless treasures, but I still can't compare to this woman. Little Soul is the real treasure here. Yi Hua also heard Li Hun's voice, and the corner of his mouth twitched a bit. Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji were about to roll over from laughing. Haha. Yi Hua, to think that you would have such a day. Look at that Li Hun, she is even better at acting than you. Xianxia was about to cramp up from laughing. Dong Huang Baiji covered her small mouth and laughed. I must say, this Li Hun is indeed formidable, especially that plaything under my high heels. Why is she so awesome? Even I am starting to admire her a bit. Yi Hua felt that he had met his match. How can I be defeated by Dou Fusher's woman? Wait till I, the Supreme Overlord, also come and act cool one day. I will let you all know what is called strong. What is called a real strong personality. When Yi Hua's words landed into everyone's ears, the crowd burst into an uproar. Righteous path is just a plaything under this woman's high heels. Looking at Li Hun on the big screen, Li Hun is truly handsome. Some brainless fans immediately started cheering and shouting that Li Hun was handsome. In fact, there were even some young ladies who idolized Li Hun and fantasized that they would also be able to do something like Li Hun. Honestly speaking, with Li Hun's imposing manner and the surrounding bloody environment, coupled with her words, Li Hun was truly extremely handsome. Looking at Dou Fushi, he was about to not be able to endure it anymore. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao were also looking at Li Hun blankly. This woman is actually so strong. If we didn't get poisoned that night, the ones who would have died would have been us. Meanwhile, Wang Debao was also comparing Li Hun with his wife. It seems that Li Hun is slightly taller than Li Hun by a bit. I am truly envious of this man. Of course, Wang Debao was just sighing in admiration. This woman is truly strong. Meanwhile, Jiu Yi, who was at the side, was still fiddling with the 8848 titanium phone that he was holding onto and was currently making a call to the after-sales service. Just by listening to that roar, one could tell that Jiu Yi was very dissatisfied. On the stage, Li Hun was holding onto a 5-colored godly sword, and her pair of bright red high heels were stepping on the blood. With every step she took, everyone's heart would throb. Everyone was thinking, could it be that there is no one who is able to stop this demoness? Heavens, quickly send down a brave warrior to save everyone. Are you still going to continue acting? Li Hun said faintly. Chapter 651. Everyone was curious. What was this demoness talking about? You were clearly the one who was acting tough just now, and you're still talking about others? There are corpses all around you. But among the corpses, a person slowly stood up. This scene gave everyone hope. There was actually someone who hadn't died yet. That was great. This was actually a vicious cycle. From hope to despair, then hope rose again, and then despair again. At this moment, the camera was also focused on Qing Tiandi. No one knew if Qing Tiandi was embarrassed. He actually lied on the ground and pretended to be dead. What kind of courage did he need to do that? Fortunately, no one paid attention to this. They were more concerned about whether Atlas God could kill the she-devil. After all, everyone was dead except for him. Is God raising heaven and earth full of crap right now? Today he had completely lost all his face. It was all because of his miscalculation that this woman had actually used her chest to block the array formation that he was most proficient in. What was she trying to prove? You didn't stuff it with silicone. He could guarantee that this world of solitude was formed naturally. It was the super soft type, and it felt extremely good to the touch. At this moment, Yi Hua also saw heaven and earth. In actuality, Yi Hua had never seen heaven and earth before, but he had a feeling that it was heaven and earth. Look, this is our opponent. I have to take a screenshot and post it on Tieba. Then I'll hire some keyboard warriors to flame him. He'll be so angry that he'll vomit blood. Yi Hua was very proud of himself. To be my opponent, I'm afraid that you don't even know what your surname is anymore. I really don't know where your courage comes from. If you learn how to sing the song Courage, then you will truly be courageous. Qingye took a good look at it. Is this the heaven and earth pillar? Feels so low. That's right, we were actually framed by him. This is truly a loss of face. Dong Huang Baiji was rather speechless. She didn't expect that her opponent would be this kind of trash. Yi Hua sneered a few times. That's because I let him off a few times. I wanted to see what kind of trouble he could come up with. I didn't expect that the incident this time around would force him to personally show himself. This soul separation is not bad. Hearing that their husband was praising soul departing again, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji's expression became serious again. Yi Hua also felt it. Just what is going on with these two women recently? Why didn't this kind of phenomenon happen in the past? It could only be said that Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji were worried that Yi Hua was having an affair, which was why they were being so sensitive. But at the very least, Yi Hua wouldn't go and poach his subordinates. Taking 10,000 steps back, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji were still a bit stronger than soul departing. This was a kind of overall effect and unique aura. Wang Debao and Bai Cixin did not expect that the heaven and earth god would personally participate in the competition. It was obvious that the heaven and earth god attached great importance to this competition. Of course, Lord Jiu also saw the heaven and earth god. His mind started to turn frantically. If this master died, it seemed like he would have to seek shelter elsewhere. This Lord Jiu lacks everything but a master. If you don't believe me, take a look at my contacts on WeChat. As he stood up, the entire scene exploded in an instant. It was as if a giant had stood up. Everyone had forgotten that this guy had been playing dead just now. Handsome. Get rid of this demoness and my girlfriend will sleep with you. That's right, as long as you kill this female devil my boyfriend won't mind because he wants to live. Get rid of her. I want to go to the bar and pick up girls. Countless men began shouting. All of their hopes were placed on Heaven and Earth God, but right now Heaven and Earth God was in a bad state. Soul Departing kept the multicolored divine sword in her hand and stretched out her slender index finger. On the fingernail there was even red nail polish that was painted on it and it looked very beautiful. You are their leader, right? Kneel on the ground and repent and I will spare your life. That arrogant Soul Departing, if placed in other places she would be a villain and Heaven and Earth God would be the main character that was going to defy the heavens. Of course Heaven and Earth God wouldn't admit that he was their leader. Only an idiot would admit that. However, this woman sure is daring to actually want me to kneel down and repent. I'm afraid that you haven't experienced my true ability. Something's wrong. Heaven and Earth God looked towards the helicopter in the sky. If I were to reveal my true ability, wouldn't I be exposed? If I were to reveal all of my trump cards, what am I supposed to do? Should I be a coward first? In the future I will look for an opportunity to make a comeback. This is a good idea. No. A strong person must have the dignity of a strong person. How can I kneel down? However, as a man I have to know when to yield and when to stand tall. I have to know when to grow and when to grow. I have to know when to shrink and when to grow. At most, I will use blood to wash away this humiliation in the future. I still can't. As a man I have to be able to support the heavens and the earth. Even if blood can flow, my dignity cannot be messed up. It has already been 5 minutes. How much longer do you need to think about? Soul Departing was a bit impatient. At the very least you should say something. Why are you taking so long to think about a matter of survival? Just as Soul Departing was getting impatient, his earpiece rang. Little Soul Departing, His Honor said, we cannot kill this man but we can cripple him. Dou Fushi had just received Wei Chang's order, and he hurriedly passed it down to Soul Departing. Don't mess up His Honor's plan. And got it. Soul Departing said lightly. However, no matter how lightly Soul Departing said, Soul Departing was still heard by Heaven and Earth God. This woman. There's someone on the helicopter. Who is the one that gave the order to this woman? It is definitely Voidless Realm. Damn it, this Voidless Realm is so ruthless, to actually force me to such an extent vicious enough. Heaven and Earth God had calculated everything, but he didn't expect that Soul Departing would be attacked by Dou Fushi's fart. If not for that fart, Soul Departing definitely wouldn't have been able to withstand that great sword, and Soul Departing would definitely have been injured. That's why I say Dou Fushi's fart is truly good. Heaven and Earth God straightened his back and locked his gaze onto Soul Departing. That expression of his gave off the feeling that he was looking down on the entire world. In a single sentence he gave off the aura of a king. Suddenly, Soul Departing's brows wrinkled. Soul Departing's delicate body immediately moved at high speed. Soul Departing turned her head around and looked at her skirt, and a tear was actually torn open on it. Not bad, no wonder you didn't kneel, you have some ability. Soul Departing was a bit unhappy. This is a new skirt that I just bought, and Dou Fushi has only seen it once. Dou Fushi even said that my eyesight is not bad, but right now my skirt was actually torn open. Bastard. Soul Departing's beautiful eyes shifted towards Heaven and Earth God. The latter was startled. What's going on? Why did you suddenly get angry? I didn't even injure you. What are you getting angry for? Are you crazy? All of the spectators were no longer calm, and they began cheering once again. This female devil actually dodged. She actually dodged. This is a great thing. There is actually someone who told her to dodge, which means that even she is afraid. An overflowing evil aura burst out from Soul Departing's body. You. I'm going to crush your head with my high heels. Chapter 652. Because Dou Fushi liked to wear high heels, Drifting Soul also liked to wear high heels. Therefore every sentence he said had high heels in it. Soul Departing's body flickered as she stood in place, not daring to be careless. A strange shadow hovered around Sky holding, like countless invisible knives. To be more precise, they were knives formed by astral winds. Back then Xiao Yi had died under this move, instantly killed. However, Soul Departing wasn't Xiao Yi. That ghostly movement technique was actually frantically dodging, causing Qing Tian to be in a daze. This woman was actually able to dodge. How was this possible? Holding the heavens and earth had seen people use weapons to block, but he had never seen anyone who could hide and hide for so long. Shadowless green light. Holding up the heavens and earth, Qing Tian roared as his body emitted bursts of spiritual qi. His strength rose to the peak. The surrounding astral winds gradually turned green, and their speed increased. It also meant that it was sharper. Li Hun, who had transformed into a phantom, snorted, "Do you really think you can stop me?" Courting death. Golden scale fist. Qing Tian's face tightened as he felt a powerful pressure coming at him. That small golden fist actually broke his astral wind with a single punch. This was way too powerful. Shield of forgetfulness. Qing Tian roared as a black iron shield appeared in his hand. Don't underestimate this shield. It was an ancient divine artifact and its function was to counterattack. No matter how much power the opponent had, it would be reflected back. Soul Departing didn't think too much about it. His fist slammed fiercely onto the shield, causing a shockwave to explode out and a series of explosions. When Departed Soul's punch landed on the shield, he realized that something was wrong. A powerful force was counterattacking. Bang! Soul Drifting's body was sent flying dozens of meters away. Her red high heels left a deep mark on the ground, but the heels did not break. Could be seen that the quality was quite good. After this battle, this pair of high-heeled shoes was sold out. When everyone saw that Soul Departing had been sent flying, they were stunned for a moment before bursting into cheers. Dear viewers, I'm here to tell you a piece of good news. This demoness has been beaten back. They were forced to retreat by this hero. A hero has fallen from the sky. We are finally saved. When some men saw this scene, they cried tears of joy. They had finally seen a miracle. It wasn't easy. They didn't even dare to go shopping with their wives anymore. Drifting Soul slowly straightened his body and stared at heaven and earth. Qing Tiandi said faintly, "This shield of mine." Before he could finish his sentence, Qing Tiandi felt a creaking sound coming from his shield. With the naked eye, he could see cracks appearing on the surface of the shield. The cracks were increasing in number as though it was about to explode. Qing Tiandi hurriedly threw the shield in his hand into the air. Boom boom boom. The forgotten shield exploded in the air, forming a gigantic mushroom cloud. The terrifying shockwave instantly descended, uprooting all of the trees, creating a terrifying scene. Even though Soulless had been repelled by the shield, he had still managed to shatter an ancient god artifact with a single punch. One could imagine how monstrous the current Soulless was. "What did you want to say?" Li Hun asked curiously. Qing Tian was embarrassed. He had wanted to brag about his shield, but it had been destroyed by a single punch. She was indeed a powerful woman. "My shield is actually not the most powerful weapon," Mighty Heaven and Earth said in a deep voice. In fact, the Forgotten Shield was one of his most powerful weapons and it could easily turn the tables. However, this woman was still able to stand and speak after being counterattacked. She must be pretending, but she had actually suffered internal injuries. She was quite good at acting. Did she really think that I, Mighty Heaven and Earth, wouldn't know? Spirit Beast Berserk Art. Mighty Heaven and Earth was still stable. He did not want to reveal too much of his abilities, lest he was discovered. If necessary, he would have to pretend to be weak. Mighty Heaven and Earth threw out a piece of parchment, and with a flash of light, a large bull's head could be seen floating in the air. That's right, it was a bull's head, but this bull's head was incomparably large. It was panting heavily and its nostrils were emitting hot streams of air. Soulless looked at it and felt disgusted. Especially the mucus under the bull's mouth. It actually had a corrosive effect on the ground. This is an ancient beast, the demon girl. Looks like you're finished. Mighty Heaven and Earth felt that it was about time. The Forgotten Shield and the Spirit Beast Berserk Art were his secret weapons, but they had been used up to deal with the demon girl. He hoped that it would be effective. If it was in the past, it would definitely be effective. Even if Soulless did not die, she would still be seriously injured. Especially the counterattack of the Forgotten Shield. It was not something that an ordinary person could withstand. If it was not for the problem of hardness, it would definitely be able to counterattack 100%. Friends in the audience. Did you all see this? This man actually summoned an ancient beast. My god, this is the first time I have seen this kind of spirit beast. Even though it is flying in the air, I still feel a trace of fear in my heart. Looks like the demon girl is really going to die. Right after the host finished speaking, Soulless could be seen fiercely taking a look at the bull's head, and a pair of beautiful eyes were released. Death gaze. The bull's head could be seen pausing for a moment, and that expression on its face changed from excitement to fear. Afterward, without even thinking, it ran away. Which person is so lacking in morals to actually summon this Lord Bull to fight a monster, and furthermore, it is the kind that cannot be defeated, bastard. Right now mighty heaven and earth's brain was a bit lacking. The ancient beast that I summoned actually ran away. How is this possible? Didn't we agree on 100% loyalty? These 4 liars. To actually lie to me. It is not that Brother Bull's loyalty is not high enough, rather, it is that soulless death gaze is too terrifying. This is the difference in strength. With just a single look you will know the consequences. Right now the scene changed to the escaping bull's head. The host didn't know how to continue the conversation. This is so awkward. Mighty heaven and earth's face was very bad, and he forcefully explained, that bull just now was given to me by someone else. I am not very familiar with it. It is one thing for you to cut my clothes. Furthermore, you even brought such a disgusting thing over. Soulless immediately erupted. Mighty heaven and earth did not expect that this woman would actually start fighting just like that, completely not following the rules of the pugilistic world at all, to even give the other party a warning before fighting. Mighty heaven and earth did not dare to be careless. Once again he took out an ancient god equipment and smashed it onto the ground, causing a purple mist to immediately spread out. Very quickly mighty heaven and earth put on a gas mask. This gas version of an ancient god equipment was very rare, and it took me a lot of effort to obtain it. Originally I planned to save it for when I need to save my life, but right now I have no choice but to use it. Demon girl, this is a highly toxic poison. After smelling it, my entire body will become powerless and my 4 limbs will become stiff and I will no longer be able to move. That's why it is called 4 limbs killer. Mighty heaven and earth was very proud of himself. Chapter 653. Li Hun, who was standing beside Qing Tiandi, said, "Oh? There is such a poison in the world. In that case you have to taste it yourself." After speaking, Li Hun opened up Qing Tiandi's hands and held his breath, looking like he was not going to breathe in the poison no matter what. Li Hun sneered, then directly punched onto Qing Tiandi's stomach. How could Qing Tiandi be able to hold his breath? Seeing that Qing Tiandi breathed in the poison, Li Hun felt relieved. Meanwhile, Qing Tiandi sneered in his heart. "Fortunately, I have the antidote, otherwise I would have died here today." After taking out the antidote, Qing Tiandi revealed a complacent smile. "In the end, I, Qing Tiandi, am going to win against Qing Tiandi." Just as Qing Tiandi was drinking the antidote, a huge shadow rushed over and knocked onto Qing Tiandi's arm. Meanwhile, Qing Tiandi looked at the antidote being smashed into pieces, and the bull head had already disappeared. How did this happen? That was the only antidote, and it was actually smashed into pieces by the spiritual beast that I summoned. Why am I so unlucky today? How could something like this happen? Qing Tiandi could feel that his 4 limbs were gradually becoming stiff. Being poisoned by my own ancient godly equipment, if this matter were to spread out, it would be a joke. More importantly, my antidote was actually smashed into pieces by the ancient ferocious beast that I summoned. I didn't look at the almanac when I went out today. If I had known earlier, I would have come another day. Gradually the smoke dispersed and Li Hun's figure appeared. Qing Tiandi's figure also appeared. Qing Tiandi could already feel that his 4 limbs had become stiff. Fortunately, that demon woman's situation is the same as mine. This is truly a blessing in misfortune. This can be considered as perishing together with the demon woman, right? Demon woman, we are also unable to move now. There will be people coming over to kill you soon. Qing Tiandi had a way to recover, otherwise he would have long exploded from anger. How could he still be so calm? When these words fell on the streets and alleys, there were real cheers this time. This man had really taken care of the witch. This is truly satisfying. Quickly send people over to kill the demon woman. Don't let any more accidents happen. A trace of an evil smile appeared on the corner of Li Hun's mouth. Who told you that I am the same as you? Drifting Soul waved her hands and even spun around. She was so beautiful that her dress was dancing in the air. Dou Fusher decided that when he got back he would have a good talk with him. In the future, don't wear skirts and twirl in circles. Be careful not to expose yourself. Li Hun was still able to spin in circles and his jaw was about to drop to the ground. Why was this woman perfectly fine? She wasn't wearing a gas mask and she had even spoken just now. How could she not have inhaled it? This was impossible. The people who were still celebrating enthusiastically just now collapsed in an instant. Today's mood was like sitting on a roller coaster, going up and down, terrifying to the extreme. How did you do it? Qing Tiandi was unwilling to accept this. They had already perished together, so why were you completely fine? Li Hun pursed her cherry lips. Perhaps this is strength. You won't understand. Qing Tiandi was speechless. Despair. The men were all in despair. We are still unable to defeat this woman even after all this. Why does the heavens treat men like this? It's time to settle the score for cutting my clothes and disgusting me. Soul Departing walked in front of Qing Tian with a sinister smile. Qing Tian, who couldn't move his limbs, hurriedly said, "Don't come over. Let me tell you, you will regret this." Soul Departing laughed lightly, then directly punched onto Qing Tiandi's face, causing his chin to become crooked. Meanwhile, Qing Tiandi was just like a cannonball, crashing into all kinds of buildings and raising up a large amount of dust. This was a one-sided abuse. Meanwhile, Qing Tiandi's figure was flying around in the amusement park. Soul Departing's attack was very accurate. She definitely didn't take Qing Tiandi's life. Looking at Qing Tiandi being completely abused like this, everyone became lifeless. If only there was someone who stood out right now. Perhaps it was the heavens that heard the people's cries in the sky above the amusement park. A golden light actually flashed, and the golden light immediately dispersed the darkness. The scene immediately changed to this mystical scene. The host was stupefied and he shouted out with a lisp, "Audience. Friends, there's a sudden movement in the clouds. Could it be that a celestial is about to appear? Seems like the heavens didn't abandon us. A celestial is about to descend." This time no one cheered. Who knows whether or not we will be pressed onto the ground by the demon woman later on. It has already happened so many times and we are truly unable to endure such a blow. Suddenly, silhouettes appeared in the clouds. They were dressed in golden robes and silver armor, and they stood in 3 rows, forming an arc coupled with the golden special effects. They looked like celestial soldiers and generals. Even though the auras that the 1,000 people gave off were not as terrifying as soul hibernators, they were filled with light and righteousness. All of their faces were brimming with confidence because they knew that they were here to put on a show. The scene then switched to a few flags. When they saw the words on the flag, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. These people are actually Voidless Realm experts. An existence even more terrifying than this demoness. The host was rendered speechless. He originally thought that it was reinforcements, but it turned out to be another demon. This time it was Tang Yu who led the troops here. His armor was different from the others. It was completely golden and there was a lifelike dragon pattern on his chest. He gave off a very righteous feeling and didn't look like a bad person. Soul Soaring put down the heaven and earth in his hand. At this moment, the heaven and earth had been beaten beyond recognition by Soul Soaring. If those 4 people saw the heaven and earth in this state, they would definitely be extremely excited. "Who are you? Do you want to kneel down and lick my high heels?" Drifting Soul shouted. Naturally, she knew that this was little Daodu's mission. All she had to do was to cooperate well. Naturally, she couldn't be too pompous. If little Daodu was punished, her heart would ache. Dou Fusher looked at the crowd in the sky and thought to himself, his honor's extravagance is quite impressive. There are at least a few thousand people here, right? Looks very spectacular. Demoness, you have already violated Voidless Realm's law by bringing disaster to the common people. Today my Voidless Realm shall bring you to justice. I am enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. It had to be said that Tang Yu's current performance was pretty good. His handsome appearance had captured the hearts of many young ladies. Qing Tian, who was already on the verge of death, cursed at Voidless Realm's shamelessness. "Voidless Realm, just you wait, sooner or later I will kill you all." Li Hun suddenly let out a seductive laughter. "Another group of people who enforce justice on behalf of heaven. Wait until I kill all of you one by one, then I will know what is Dao." Everyone didn't even have the time to react to what just happened. Isn't Voidless Realm a bad organization? Why would they come to arrest him? This was too strange. However, they wouldn't make wild guesses until the end. Chapter 654. Soul Departing lightly flipped her hair. Just this small action alone caused a commotion in the hearts of many men. When this woman is beautiful, her action of flipping her hair is simply incomparable. Dou Fusher felt deeply proud. My little Soul Hun is obedient, strong, and most importantly, she is beautiful. Her figure is also extremely good. In my heart, she is a perfect woman. However, when he thought of the 2 madams, his little Soul Hun's temperament and aura lost quite a bit. However, this is also normal. The two madams are the two madams, how can I compare them? Isn't this just courting death? In my heart, my little Zhou Xian is the most perfect woman. Soul departing indeed has this kind of charm. Even if I am facing voidless realm right now, I won't feel any fear. However, this is all just an act. As the subordinate of a supreme overlord, if I don't even know how to act, I won't be able to do it. Soul departing coldly looked at Tang Yu, who was in the sky, and a 5-colored divine sword appeared in her hand once again. The aura of voidless realm's 1,000 people clashed against Soul departing's aura. Soul departing fought against 1,000 people by himself. This courage was indeed admirable, especially for those who were watching the live broadcast. Yihua looked at Soul departing and smiled. This acting is not bad, don't you think so? Qingya and Donghuang Baiji expressed their unhappiness. Look at Yihua today, he has already praised us countless times, but you have never praised us like this before. Yihua also felt helpless. What is this jealousy? This soul departing is indeed not bad, she is comparable to Zhou Xian, and in the future she will be one of the two main forces. I feel that these two women are more reliable than their own men. I can be at ease and assign some tasks to them. Tang Yu, who was in the scene, was also shocked. I didn't expect this woman to be so powerful. Fortunately, she is one of us. If she is an enemy, we have no chance of winning at all. Of course, this is only in terms of strength. If she takes out the treasure given by the Empress, then Tang Yu could be seen stretching out her palm. A purple forest pagoda appeared on her palm. This purple forest pagoda was also one of the items in Yihua's collection, and it was more than enough to deal with soul departing. When the purple forest pagoda appeared, a loud sound immediately rang out in the sky, causing everyone's ears to ring. A 5-colored cloud floated in the sky, emitting light. That threatening aura carried a ferocious momentum as it struck towards soul departing. When Li Hun saw the violet forest pagoda in Tang Yu's hand, her beautiful eyes narrowed. This wasn't an act, she was truly shocked. The things that Qing Tian took out were all toys, nothing to be afraid of, but the treasures that this person took out were indeed enough to make him feel fear. Demoness. Today Voidless Realm will let you see what is righteous. Tang Yu shouted out lightly. Soul drifting away came back to her senses, and the 5-colored divine sword in her hand shone brightly. Let's see who's the righteous one. White Moon Sky Dance. Following Soul Lone Sowl's shout, she seemed to be dancing, and waves of massive sword energy rampaged about her surroundings. As Soul Lone Soul danced, she gave off a massive spiritual pressure, and the ground seemed unable to withstand the pressure, and it began to collapse. Pink, mist-like sword energy swirled around Soul Lone Soul. Tang Yu's gaze sank, and in an instant she threw out the violet forest pagoda in her hand. The pressure coming from the ancient artifact was even more terrifying, and the size of the pagoda gradually became bigger as well, enveloping the top of Soul Lone Sowl's head. The terrifying aura caused Soul Lone Soul, who was below, to be unable to breathe, and she was incomparably shocked in her heart. Just what kind of treasure is this? From the aura that the pagoda is emitting, it should be a treasure from the ancient era. Let's see just how powerful this treasure is. Following Soul Lone Sowl's shout, countless 5-colored divine swords successfully condensed, and with a world-destroying might, the 5-colored divine swords flew towards the violet forest pagoda in the sky. Tang Yu shouted out, "Descend!" The violet forest pagoda that was floating in the sky could be seen descending with a majestic might, and at this moment Soul Lone Sowl's body was instantly suppressed by a bit. Under the might of the violet forest pagoda, the sword intent that was emitting a majestic aura earlier completely dissipated. Soul Lone Soul found it hard to believe that she was actually unable to retaliate at all under the might of the violet forest pagoda. Soul Lone Sowl's expression of unwillingness and fear was captured on the screen. This wasn't an act, this was what Soul Lone Soul was thinking. Boom! The purple forest pagoda landed on the ground and collected soul departing. Dofusher was extremely nervous right now. Would little Soul Hun be alright? This pagoda looked really powerful. Your Honor, Soul Hun is one of us, don't be too fierce. Everyone watching the live broadcast held their breath. They didn't want to see the female devil break out of the tower. Tang Yu once again stretched out her palm, and the purple forest pagoda flew over to her side. The pagoda became smaller and smaller, and when it entered into Tang Yu's palm, it immediately disappeared. At this time the camera switched to Tang Yu. Tang Yu also knew that she was still looking at the camera. The radiance of Voidless Realm will envelop the entire land. No one is allowed to slander Voidless Realm's glory. Long live the Empress. The thousands of soldiers behind her shouted in unison, "Long live the Empress." When this sentence reached everyone's ears, their minds became a bit muddled. The first thought that came to everyone's mind was that Voidless Realm was a good person, and that Voidless Realm was being framed by someone. All along, no one from Voidless Realm came out to give an explanation. However, this time when Voidless Realm came out to give an explanation, they immediately got rid of a scourge. Isn't this enough to explain everything? Everyone in the plaza cheered again. Long live Voidless Realm, long live your majesty, may the Empress live for 10,000 years. People are all like this, whoever can give them a happy life they will recognize that person as their boss. This time Voidless Realm was able to do this, and it made everyone's opinion of Voidless Realm change. Who cares about Voidless Realm's schemes? In any case, Voidless Realm helped Voidless Realm to get rid of the crisis. Yihua pursed his lips, then stretched out his hand and smacked onto Donghuang Baiji's perky butt. "What are you doing? It hurts." Donghuang Baiji said shyly. Yihua said faintly, "I'm trying out the feeling of empresses, but it feels pretty good." The Empress was quite angered by her husband, and after a snort she turned her head around and ignored Yihua. Tang Yu waved her hand and Voidless Realm's soldiers disappeared from the sky. Everything returned back to normal, and other than the amusement park that was destroyed and God supporting heaven and earth that was destroyed, everything returned back to normal. Seeing that Voidless Realm had left, Dou Fushi immediately left as well. "Alright, everything has been settled. I even gave that God supporting heaven and earth a good beating, so the two of you should be able to calm down now, right?" Yihua pinched onto the cheeks of his two wives, and the two wives turned their faces away and threw a tantrum. Yihua didn't stop them from throwing a tantrum. They were women, after all, throwing a tantrum at an appropriate time would be able to adjust their emotions. Let's go and take a look at today's hero." Yihua stood up and walked towards the outside of the plaza. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji hurriedly followed after Yihua, fearing that their husband might have cheated on them. Yihua was only admiring the attitude of soul separation when they were working, so how could he possibly have any thoughts about it? Chapter 655. Right now, I only have some thoughts about my sister-in-law. Adultery is a very interesting thing, and it is very hard for ordinary people to experience it. After all, one must first have the guts to do it, and one must also be prepared for the consequences of being exposed. Yihua arrived at the peak of the mountain, and Tang Yu and the others quickly appeared in front of him. Although Yihua was standing at the front, these people were serving the Empress, and in their hearts, the Empress was the master of Voidless Realm. Thus they shouted out in unison, "Greetings to your majesty, greetings to Lord Yi." Qingya didn't have a position in Voidless Realm, so they didn't know what to shout out. Donghuang Baiji's expression changed and she said faintly, "You all did well." Everyone half kneeled on the ground and shouted out, "To serve your majesty we will not hesitate to die." Tang Yu respectfully handed over the purple forest pagoda. Yihua waved his hand and the pagoda landed on his hand. "I have to release Li Hun from the pagoda. Don't suffocate to death inside." Along with a flash of golden light, Li Hun's body appeared on the ground, and she seemed to have fainted. Since Li Hun was kept by the purple forest pagoda, she would definitely suffer some damage, but in order to make the effect look more realistic, Yihua took out this treasure. Yihua threw out a golden light from his hand, and the golden light wrapped around Li Hun, and gradually, Li Hun opened her beautiful eyes. Yihua said faintly, "Don't move, just stay here." Li Hun took a look at Yihua confusedly. Sensing that the golden light was healing her, she sat cross-legged on the ground. Donghuang Baiji signaled Tang Yu to leave first. Tang Yu knew what to do and she immediately left. Not long later, Wei Chong brought Dou Fushi to Voidless Realm, and the two kneeled on the ground one after another. "Subordinate greets your honor and madams." Yihua said lightly, "Stand up." Wei Chong and Dou Fushi stood up, and when Dou Fushi saw that Li Hun was sitting cross-legged and seemed to be fine, he felt relieved. "Dou Fushi, you have to treat Li Hun well in the future, understand?" Qingya said sternly. Donghuang Baiji added, "If we find out that you treat her badly, we will break your legs." Dou Fushi's face was completely dumbfounded. He had no idea why his two wives would have such a reaction. It seemed like they were treating him very specially. Could it be that soul departing had performed too well? Don't worry, I will definitely take good care of Li Hun. Dou Fushi would of course take good care of Li Hun. Yi Hua was slightly gratified. This great battle of floating world could be considered to be the one dragging the entire team down. However, his wife was ranked at the top of the team, and could be considered to have pulled up the average value of the team. Not long after, the golden light disappeared and drifting soul slowly opened her beautiful eyes. When she saw Dou Fushi, her expression changed immediately. Little Dou soul leaf turned into a beautiful figure and hugged Dou Fushi. She even kissed him passionately. Dou Fushi was so frightened that he started shivering. Little Soulhun, you have to look at the timing first. His honor is still here, this is too sloppy. Yi Hua also didn't expect that soul departing would be so open-minded. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji were also a bit surprised. This is too passionate, isn't it? Thinking about how I and Yi Hua haven't been this passionate for a very long time, seems like we are indeed an old married couple, and some of the passion has already disappeared. Wei Chong hurriedly coughed a few times. If the two of you want to be intimate, then go back home. To actually do it in front of his honor and me. Dou Fushi finally released Soul Depari from his embrace, then hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Subordinate has lost self-control." Soul Depari held on to Dou Fushi's arm with a complacent look on her face. Dou Fushi hurriedly poked Soul Depari. At the very least, we shouldn't be this intimate in front of his honor. Soul Depari pouted her mouth and let go of Dou Fushi, then looked at the man in front of her and the purple forest pagoda that was in Dou Fushi's hand. Soul Depari, you did well today, I admire you. Yi Hua praised Soul Depari with words. This caused even Wei Chong to feel envious. It has been a very long time since his honor praised me. Soul Depari still didn't understand the value of praise, and thus she could only say, "Thank you, your honor." From today onwards, the two of you will stay in Voidless Realm for the time being and do not show your face. Yi Hua said faintly. Soul Depari definitely cannot leave Voidless Realm. If she were to be discovered by Yi Hua, all of Yi Hua's efforts would be wasted. After all, Soul Depari was just too outstanding, and the plum blossom imprint on her forehead was also very easy to recognize. The two said respectfully, "Yes. Go and rest." Yi Hua said lightly. Hearing that Yi Hua was going to let them go, Soul Depari became extremely excited. She pulled Dou Fushi and ran madly while shouting out loudly, "Little Dao, I want it." After Yi Hua and Wei Chong heard this, the corner of their mouths twitched. This woman is indeed unrestrained. Your honor, subordinate will return first. Wei Chong said. Yi Hua nodded his head. After Wei Chong left, Yi Hua looked at the two women and said gravely, "Look at how sensible Soul Depari is. The two of you are really making me." Yi Hua didn't know what to say anymore. To think that I would actually be depressed by my underling. Look at how proactive Soul Depari is, and what about you two? It's as if you two are afraid that I will make a single move. Sigh. Sister-in-law is still the best. Looking at their husband leaving, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji stamped their feet. Your wife, we are still pregnant, what else do you want to do? It's not like we haven't accompanied you before. Xianxia, it seems like after we give birth to this child, we have to properly stabilize Yi Hua. Donghuang Baiji said solemnly. All men have needs and we can't possibly let the Supreme Overlord fulfill his dreams with his own hands, right? Xianxia nodded her head. And when the time comes, we will do it together. Yi Hua will be happy. Of course he will be happy, he wants to do it even in his dreams. When the two women thought of that scene, they felt a bit embarrassed. Right now, Yi Hua went to look for Qin Yutong to have a clandestine love affair. Yutong is becoming more and more favored by me, and her skills are also becoming more and more proficient. If Yi Hua were to be given a score, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji could only get a total of 100 points. While Qin Yutong alone would get a total of 100 points. After all, both Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji were on the side of enjoyment, and they wouldn't take too much initiative. On the other hand, Qin Yutong was different. She would do her utmost to make Yi Hua feel comfortable. That's why no matter how good a wife is, it is still not as good as a sister-in-law. On the other side, Wang Debao and Bai Cixin ordered people to clean up the battlefield. Qing Tiandi, who was hammered unconscious, was sent to the People's Hospital for treatment. However, everyone seemed to have forgotten about this brave warrior who was hammered unconscious, and all of them were shouting, "Long live Voidless Realm." Very quickly, Qing Tiandi woke up and asked Dou Fushi to bring him back. Why did he come to the hospital? Lunatics. Do cultivators even need to go to the hospital? What are your brains made of? After transporting Qing Tiandi into the house, Feng Tian, who was wrapped up like a mummy, came to Qing Tiandi's house to take a look. Chapter 656. Feng Tian took a deep breath, turned around and walked out of the room. Qing Tian's mentality was much better than Feng Tian's. They were both beaten up by a woman, but why was there such a big difference? Yizizi was just a child, which made Feng Tian feel ashamed to be defeated by a child. Qing Tian didn't look disappointed, and it was normal. Wang Debao and Bai Cixing were confused. How could he maintain such a mentality after being beaten up like this? Qing Tian naturally had his reasons. You guys go out first, Qing Tian said. Wang Debao tried to persuade him. Brother Qing, don't be discouraged. Don't do anything stupid. Qing Tiandi was infuriated by these words and bellowed, "Scram!" Wang Debao was relieved. This was a normal reaction. The couple walked out of the bedroom and Qing Tian frowned. After a long time he took a deep breath as if he had made a decision. The quilt on Qing Tian's body was lifted, and the bandages on his body exploded. The color of his limbs was black. How vicious! Qing Tian's eyes focused. A pair of Qilin arms floated in the air, emitting terrifying spiritual energy. Thick blue veins could be seen on the sturdy muscles, and there was a tattoo on the arms that shone with red light. Suddenly, another pair of feet appeared. It was obvious that the feet belonged to an animal, but they were definitely not Qilin feet. They looked more like pig trotters. Don't be fooled by the appearance. These were treasures that Qing Tian got. They were the feet of an ancient divine beast, and their power was shocking. In fact, Qing Tian had wanted to change them for a long time, but he didn't have the guts. Now that his limbs were crippled, he had to change them if he wanted to stand up. Looking at the floating limbs, Qing Tian made up his mind and released a strong wind. Whoosh, whoosh. Qing Tian used his own wind to cut off his limbs, and the white bed was instantly dyed red. Qing Tian frowned, gritted his teeth and didn't say a word. Under Qing Tian's control, the limbs fell down and connected to the wounds. A green curtain of light surrounded the joints of his limbs. Holding up the heavens, Tiandi closed his eyes and attentively experienced this huge power. After an unknown period of time, heaven and earth suddenly opened their eyes. If anyone saw them, they would definitely be shocked. That was because those eyes were no longer the pupils of a human, but those of a feline. Even though it was a little ugly, its strength was dozens of times greater than before. If he were to face Soul Wandering again, he would definitely be able to crush her with a single punch. Standing up, Yizichen looked at his own legs and hooves. This was a little hard to accept, but what else could he do? This hatred. He had to report it. Heaven and earth clenched his fists tightly, causing the air to explode. It could be seen that heaven and earth's strength had reached an unimaginable level. Meanwhile, Qing Tiandi stood up for a bit, then continued to lie on the bed, seemingly wanting to pretend to be disabled. He was indeed a scheming man. Wang Debao and Bai Cixing were already in the car. They were shocked to see how badly the Titan King had been tortured. Honey, what do we do? The Righteous Alliance and the Peace Association are going to take the blame. Wang Debao was very worried because Voidless Realms people said that I was framed. Who framed me? It is definitely those two organizations. Voidless Realm did not stand out to explain because they felt disdain towards Voidless Realm. At the same time, Voidless Realm had also displayed their absolute strength. Voidless Realm easily solved the problem that the two organizations were unable to solve. Bai Cixing was also deeply aware of this point. Right now, heaven and earth is most likely done for. Furthermore, a lot of higher-ups died this time and heaven and earth's strength had instantly dropped by a few levels. Voidless Realm is so strong, how is it possible for me to defeat them? I am unable to defeat Voidless Realm at all. If I want to defeat Voidless Realm, I definitely have to find another way. At this moment, Bai Cixing thought of Bureau Chief Shi. I wonder if he has a way to defeat Voidless Realm. Honey? What are you thinking about? You can't be thinking about how to defeat Voidless Realm, right? Wang Debao was very worried about his wife. I am unable to defeat Voidless Realm at all. Seeing that his wife was not saying anything, Wang Debao continued to persuade, Honey, Voidless Realm is indeed cruel to us, but you have also seen it today, their strength is already far beyond our imagination. Who knows if there is someone even more powerful than them? It is better for us to swallow this humiliation. If Bai Cixing had listened to her husband's persuasion, the following tragedy definitely wouldn't have happened. Debeo, I can't swallow this humiliation. I really can't swallow this humiliation. A single sentence from Voidless Realm ruined my entire life's hard work. I am unwilling to accept this. Bai Cixin's hatred towards Voidless Realm was already very high. If I don't get revenge for Voidless Realm, I reckon that I won't be happy for the rest of my life. Hearing what his wife said, Wang Debeo knew that he wouldn't be able to persuade his wife. Meanwhile, Bai Cixin took out her phone and called Shi Jingyao. Bureau Chief Shi, how about we meet? Bai Cixin said gravely. Shi Jingyao was currently playing a QQ game, and when he heard Bai Cixin's words, a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Right, where is it? High Ocean City Plaza's KFC. Alright, I haven't eaten hamburgers for a long time. After hanging up the phone, the husband and wife headed straight to KFC. On the way, Wang Debeo and Bai Cixin didn't speak. Bai Cixin, who was driving, said lightly, Debeo, I'm sorry. Wang Debeo let out a light breath, then squeezed out a smile. We have already been husband and wife for so many years, there is no need to apologize. Debeo, let's divorce. In actuality, Bai Cixin had thought about it for a very long time. If her husband were to follow her, he would only be implicated by Voidless Realm. Against a huge machine like Voidless Realm, if Voidless Realm is even slightly careless, Voidless Realm would end up dying without a burial ground. Her husband had sacrificed too much for her. Wang Debeo was dumbfounded when he heard that. His expression turned ferocious. Bai Cixin, what bullshit are you talking about? Is your brain filled with shit? Debeo, you should know what I mean. I'm just too domineering, Bai Cixin said helplessly. I just like how strong you are. I'm cheap, okay? Wang Debeo angrily rebuked. They had been husband and wife for so many years, yet she actually wanted him to leave at such a crucial moment. How could she be a coward? When Bai Cixin heard her husband's words, tears flowed out of her eyes. She stopped the car by the roadside, sat on her husband's lap and kissed him madly. She was even pulling up his pants. *C wife, calm down, this is the side of the road. Wang Debeo exclaimed, did she have to be so fierce? Bai Cixin could be seen waving her hand, and the entire car seemed to have become invisible. Then the car continued moving forward. Honey, you even have an appointment with Director Shi? It's okay. You're fast. Wang Debeo was speechless. Chapter 657. However, when he saw his wife leaning down, Wang Debeo exploded. 5 minutes later, Bai Cixin continued to drive, and Wang Debeo's face was filled with despair. I can't live on anymore. Meanwhile, Bai Cixin, who was driving, had a trace of a smile on her face. The two arrived at KFC very quickly. Bai Cixin held onto Wang Debeo's arm and walked into the KFC. The two looked like a perfect couple. However, Wang Debeo's mood wasn't very good. I was too fast just now. The main reason is because my wife has great martial arts. The two chose a seat, ordered some things and waited quietly. Wife, I feel that Bureau Chief Shi won't be able to do anything to Voidless Realm. Wang Debeo said faintly while eating a French fry. Bai Cixin drank the cola and said softly, let's ask him first. Wang Debeo nodded his head. I can only do this for now. In just a few minutes, Shi Jingyao appeared. Today he was wearing formal clothes, a black suit, and looked very spirited. Miss Bai, Mr. Wang. Shi Jingyao greeted with a light smile, then sat opposite of the two. He didn't stand on ceremony and took a bite of the chicken burger. Feels pretty good. Bureau Chief Shi is so handsome today. Bai Cixin laughed. Facing a beauty's praise, I usually won't be modest. Shi Jingyao laughed lightly. Wang Debeo's face sunk. He actually dared to tease my wife right in front of me. Bureau Chief Shi, I will just say it directly. Bai Cixin didn't care about this. Taking down Voidless Realm is the main thing. Shi Jingyao placed down the burger in his hand and asked curiously, Miss Bai, did you encounter some difficulties? My request is a bit too much, but I still want to ask Bureau Chief Shi. Shi Jingyao was also very curious. What request? Bureau Chief Shi, do you have any opinion on Voidless Realm? Bai Cixin asked in a low voice. Shi Jingyao's brows gradually wrinkled, then laughed lightly. My space-time branch is only in charge of catching illegal immigrants, and it doesn't participate in worldly fights. Oh, so that's the case. Then sorry for disturbing Bureau Chief Shi's time. Bai Cixin revealed a look of disappointment. Shi Jingyao isn't interested at all. Is Voidless Realm really that powerful? Shi Jingao took the cola and took a breath. Miss Bai, do you want to get rid of Voidless Realm? That's right. Bai Cixin didn't hide anything and said directly. Then what can Miss Bai give me? Shi Jingao asked. When he heard this, hope flashed across Bai Cixin's disappointed eyes. Even Wang Debao, who was beside him, became serious. Bai Cixin asked happily, what do you want, Director Shi? Actually, what I want is very simple. I hope that the two of you can work under me. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao were a little stunned when they heard such a simple request because it was really too simple. Compared to their own request, it was like heaven and earth. Bai Cixin asked earnestly, Bureau Chief Shi, do you have any way to bring down Voidless Realm? You don't have to worry about that. I have my own ways. Shi Jing'ao's expression was brimming with confidence. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao's hearts were in their mouths. I'm very curious as to how Shi Jing'ao is going to bring down Voidless Realm. Of course, Shi Jing'ao wouldn't rely on his own strength. That was impossible. But if it was the Chief Bureau Chief, then it would be a different story. Right now, Shi Jing'ao received a clear news that Chief Bureau Chief Jiang was coming over to inspect the work. I won't be able to explain my work, but I need a scapegoat, right? That Voidless Realm's Empress's man is a stowaway. Although his strength isn't clear compared to the Chief Bureau Chief, his strength should be a lot inferior. Besides, this time it's not like the Chief Bureau Chief is coming alone. I heard that there are a few higher-ups coming with him. With their strength, isn't it just a matter of time for them to bring down Voidless Realm? Of course, adding oil to the fire was inevitable. After finishing eating the burger in his hand, Shi Jing'ao wiped his hands and stood up. You two enjoy yourselves, I won't be accompanying you. Bureau Chief Shi, thank you. Miss Bai, I look forward to your performance in the future. After finished speaking, Shi Jing'ao left. The husband and wife took a look at each other, and their gazes were filled with doubt. Wife, this Bureau Chief Shi isn't lying to us, right? Wang Debao asked gravely. Because the matter was too simple to the point that they couldn't understand it. Bai Cixin also couldn't understand Shi Jing'ao, and she said lightly, what benefit does he get from lying to us? He only wants us to join him. That's right, why are these people so weird? I can't catch up with them at all. Wang Debao felt that Qing Tian was like this and Shi Jing'ao was the same as well. I really can't understand the thoughts of these powerful individuals. Furthermore, to poke a hornet's nest for the sake of two strangers doesn't seem to be logical. Or could it be that Shi Jing'ao was planning to take action from the start and I just happened to bump into the muzzle of the gun? The husband and wife seemed to have thought of the same thing, and they looked at each other with a surprised gaze. After living together for so long, Wang Debao and Bai Cixin had a telepathic connection, and they knew what the other was thinking. Seems like I was still too impatient. Bai Cixin shook her head. If Shi Jing'ao had planned to do this from the start, our request for help could only be said to be a delivery. Wang Debao hugged onto his wife. Forget it, if I am able to fulfill your wish, I am willing to do anything for you. Debao, why are you so good to me? Are you stupid? You are my wife, if I don't treat you well, who should I treat well too? Bai Cixin smiled tenderly and snuggled into her husband's embrace, feeling the warmth of his embrace. Yi Hua probably didn't expect that he would be able to meet an acquaintance so soon, and furthermore, it was an acquaintance that was so far away from him. Right now, Yi Hua was lying on the bed with a tablet in his hand, and Qing Yutong was pouting her small mouth while leaning on the bed. Brother-in-law, am I not as good-looking as a tablet? Qing Yutong asked sweetly. Looking at brother-in-law's side profile, he is simply too handsome. Yi Hua didn't reply and looked at the various big news. All of the headlines were in Voidless Realm's favor. There were even some people who said that Justice Alliance and Peace Association were useless, and that Voidless Realm still needed to step out and stop them during crucial times. There were also some people who said that these two organizations were big swindlers, causing everyone to misunderstand Voidless Realm. There were also some experts who suggested that those 300,000 people weren't killed by Voidless Realm, but rather they were killed by the spiritual creatures in the desert. This kind of conclusion received the approval of many people. A large wave of trolls began supporting Voidless Realm, then started scolding the two organizations. This caused Yi Hua to laugh. Qing Tian, you want to fight against me on what basis? With just a little bit of calculation, all of your schemes would have collapsed. What else can you do right now? If I were to make a move, you might die comfortably, but as long as I use my brain, you might not even know what kind of terror you are going to experience. Chapter 658. Yihua turned off the tablet and in his mind he was thinking about what God Qing Tian would do next. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope that this God Qing Tian will not disappoint me too much, and that he will pull himself together and fight against me. Brother-in-law. In the end you didn't even listen to what I said. Qing Yutong directly rode on Yihua's body. As expected of a female knight. Nonsense, come down. No. Are you coming down or not? Nope. Sometimes Yihua quite liked Qing Yutong's fearless personality. If it was Qingya and Donghuang Baiji they would have long since gotten off the bed. Patting onto his sister-in-laws, but Yihua said in a low voice, "Alright, quickly come down." This time Qing Yutong knew that it was time to come down, and she showed that it was time to stop. Brother-in-law, big sister and big sister Baiji's palace is just beside us. Aren't you afraid? Qing Yutong asked curiously, while her delicate hands tightly hugged onto Yihua's arm. Yihua sneered, "Would I be afraid of them? What a joke." Really? Qing Yutong teased. Nonsense, I am a man with an indomitable spirit. There is no such thing as being afraid of my wife. Right after Yihua finished speaking, Qingya's voice rang out from outside. Yutong, big sister has come in. Holy shit. Brother-in-law, run. Yihua wasn't in a hurry to think too much. Picking up his clothes and shoes, he instantly disappeared from the bed. Not only that, he didn't forget to take away his tablet. Looking at brother-in-law's hurried expression, Qing Yutong held back her laughter. And you still say that you are not afraid? Brother-in-law was good at everything, but he was stubborn and liked to show off. Right now Yihua was panicking to death. I've never panicked like this before and I'm really scared now. This was the first time that Yihua felt such a peculiar emotion, and it caused Yihua to feel very excited. Is this the feeling of fear? As expected, this feeling is very powerful. I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to continue having a clandestine love affair. This is 2F** king exciting. Qing Yutong immediately lied down and pretended to be asleep. Yutong? Qingya looked at her little sister who was currently sleeping and called out lightly. As expected of a movie empress, Qing Yutong slightly opened her hazy eyes. Big sister, what's wrong? Have you seen your brother-in-law? Qingya asked curiously. Right after Baiji finished lecturing me, she and Baiji disappeared. I don't know where they went. Qing Yutong said helplessly. Why did you come over to my place to look for brother-in-law? I really have to give it to you. Qingya laughed dryly. Alright, you are still sleeping in the middle of the day, quickly wake up. Don't want to, women should sleep more, only then would they be able to maintain their appearance. Qing Yutong turned her body over and continued to pretend to be asleep. Qingya shook her head, then turned around and left. Right now, Yihua was currently sitting in the bedroom on the second floor of Leisure Bar. While wearing his clothes, Yihua had a panicked look on his face. If he was caught on the spot, they would probably want to kill him. After putting on his clothes, Yihua was thinking about where to go and stabilizing his state of mind. Right now he was still a bit anxious. Speaking of which, it has been a long time since I went to check on Absolute Heaven's situation. I wonder how he is doing now. They arrived at the Dongfang family's house. A strange sound rang out. This should be the miserable cry of a cat, right? Has Zhu Tian woken up? Just when Yihua was feeling puzzled, a cat rushed up to the eaves of the house in a panic. There were 3 women chasing after him. Be good, Zhu Tian, we will help you bathe, Dongfang Yu Air called out softly. Brett glared at Zhu Tian. Zhu Tian, come down, don't force me to come and catch you. Zhu Tian, my little darling, quickly come into my embrace, Guan Yanxin said teasingly. Zhu Tian stood on the roof and shivered. Ever since I woke up, the days have become more and more torturous. These 3 women are simply inhumane to the point that I nearly suffered internal injuries. They even used fish to tempt me. Do they really think that I am a cat? Zhu Tian, if you don't come down, I am going to get angry. Smell your body, you are smelling. Brett placed her hands on her waist and shouted out. Meow, Imperial translation, scram. I don't want to come down. They even said that their body smelled and that they had to bathe 3 times a day. Furthermore, they even used a super strong hairdryer and their hairdryer made their heads dizzy. After the hairdryer was done, they would play with me and completely treat me as a pet. When I sleep at night, I nearly suffocate to death because of the 3 women. I really can't continue living like this. Zhu Tian, you forced me to do this. Brett shouted out and her figure flashed. Zhu Tian, who had lost his strength, was completely at the mercy of Brett. He was completely not Brett's opponent, and Zhu Tian was completely unable to escape. Zhu Tian, who was being carried in Brett's embrace, shouted out for help. When he saw his honor's figure, it was as if he had seen hope, and his cry became even more ear-piercing. Brett and the other two women also saw his honor, and they immediately prostrated themselves on the ground and shouted out, "Subordinates, greet his honor." After Brett loosened her grip, Zhu Tian ran towards Yihua without any regard for his life, then hugged onto Yihua's thigh while looking at the three women vigilantly. Savage. This is too goddamn savage. Why didn't I discover that they have such a fetish in the past? Seeing that Zhu Tian was being bullied like this, Yihua felt at ease. Men, if they don't get bullied by women, they wouldn't know what their surname is. Just like me, do they dare to do this? Even if I gave them a few hundred times more courage, they still wouldn't dare to go against me. What happened just now was just a strategic retreat. What are you all doing? Yihua asked faintly. Brett said respectfully, "Your Honor, we were just about to bathe Zhu Tian, but Zhu Tian isn't willing to bathe." Meow, Imperial translation. Your Honor, what they are doing isn't bathing, what they are doing is raping themselves. Zhu Tian's body is about to be ruined by them. Yihua grabbed onto Zhu Tian's neck and lifted him up, then said gravely, "Zhu Tian isn't even willing to bathe, what are you trying to do?" Zhu Tian was in despair right now. Looking at his honor's attitude, it seems like his honor doesn't plan to help me at all. Your Honor, I am your subordinate, the brains of the team. If I were to be ruined by them, how am I supposed to give you advice and suggestions in the future? Yihua tossed Zhu Tian away, and the pitiful Zhu Tian let out a miserable shriek in midair, then turned into an arc and landed into Brett's embrace. Thank you, Your Honor. Brett had a joyous look on his face as he pinched onto Zhu Tian's cheeks, then held onto Zhu Tian. Zhu Tian felt that he was about to suffocate. This woman is completely taking revenge on me. If I am late, I will die in battle. Your Honor, you are about to lose your subordinate. Looking at the three women who were pinching onto Zhu Tian's cheeks, Yihua paused for a moment. Zhu Tian, you have been bullying others for so long, you should at least let them vent their anger, right? Don't blame me, I am doing this for your own good, Zhu Tian. Listening to Zhu Tian's miserable shriek, Yihua disappeared from the scene. I don't even know where he went. I feel very bored. I really wish that a powerful opponent would appear, but it's a pity that the heavens don't give me this hope, causing me to be unable to even fight against them. My strength is too weak. The only ones who are able to fight against me are my subordinates. Should I drag Yizizi over to fight with me? I'm getting a bit bored. Chapter 659. After returning back to Leisure Bar, Yihua really went to look for Yizizi. Upon opening the door, Yizizi could be seen playing games, and at the side a husky could be seen. Yunlang now enjoyed this kind of life very much. He ate and slept and ate. At night he would go out for a stroll and tease the female dogs. His days were carefree. This kind of situation was very similar to Lai Gu's situation at that time. What's wrong with being a dog? Don't feel like you're making a fool of yourself. You have to feel honored and everything will be perfect. What game? Go and fight with me. Yihua, who was sitting at the side, said faintly. Yizizi slanted her eyes and looked at his honor, then continued playing her game. Don't. Yizizi, your guts have grown big now to actually dare to go against my order. Yihua said gravely. Yizizi went into a daze for a moment, then took off her earphones and threw herself into Yihua's embrace. Using her small fists, she pounded on Yihua's chest, then continued playing her game. All right, I'm done. Yihua. Yizizi. Yihua shouted out lightly. This is too outrageous. Your Honor, it's not like I can defeat you, so don't bully me. Yizizi would definitely not make a move against his honor. What happened last time was an accident, that's why she went to attack his honor without any regard for her life. Now that her brain has returned to normal, how could she possibly make a move against his honor? This was insubordination, and he wouldn't be able to use his true strength in battle, which made it even more impossible for him to win. Yihua laid on his sister-in-law's bed and lit up a cigarette. He also knew why Yizizi didn't want to fight with him. Yizizi took a peek at his honor, then said in a low voice, His Honor, we are already bored to death, we might as well head over earlier. Only then will we be able to start working on the other side. Yizizi's suggestion was indeed very tempting. It wasn't that Yihua didn't think about it before, but he wanted to wait until the children grew up before going back to the city. It was still too early for him to go back now. Play your game. The plan remains the same. Yihua said faintly. I don't have the mood to smoke anymore. After extinguishing the cigarette, I actually lied on the bed and went to sleep. Yizizi sighed. Other than games, there was nothing else that could make her happy. She really hoped that these 5 years would pass quickly. It was so boring. Yizizi wasn't the only one who felt this way. All the other subordinates felt the same way. They were bored to the point of exploding and their bodies were uncomfortable. In the following month, Yihua continued to be bored. From time to time he would have a clandestine love affair with his sister-in-law, looking for excitement, then wait for others to come and look for trouble. But here came the problem. Right now Voidless Realm's image is right. In other words, since no one came to look for trouble, why would I bother to do anything? Although I made Qing Tian feel pain, it also made me feel very gloomy. This is truly annoying. I can only look for my sister-in-law to vent my anger. Right now, Qing Yutong was especially good at making Yihua happy. She was as obedient as a kitten, and she would do whatever Yihua wanted her to do. Qing Yutong was completely enjoying the life of a goddess, and this was a happiness that Qing Yutong was unable to enjoy with Qingya and Donghuang Baiji. Qing Yutong is completely different from Qingya and Donghuang Baiji, and this made me rather happy. I didn't take this sister-in-law for nothing. However, Qing Yutong was gloomy. After doing so many things, brother-in-law just doesn't want to take a look at me, and this is very annoying. He only cares about his own comfort and doesn't even think about his sister-in-law's feelings. And on this day something big was about to happen. The people from Time and Space Administration came to inspect the work, and Shi Jingyao brought everyone to respectfully wait for the arrival of the bureau chief. However, what no one expected was that the location of the Time and Space Administration's office was actually very ordinary, and it was just an ordinary office building. 3 Qian could be seen driving over from afar, and Shi Jingyao became even more reserved. Williu, who was behind Shi Jingyao, had his head lowered and was sizing up the bureau chief with his peripheral vision. I wonder what kind of person the bureau chief is. As the Qian steadily stopped downstairs, Shi Jingyao took the lead and walked out of the Qian and opened the door of the Qian. After that, a few guards came down from the Qian, and the guards who were dressed in clothes that were not too fashionable. 2 familiar faces walked down from the Qian. If Yihua was here, he would definitely recognize them. One of them was the Bureau Chief of Time and Space Administration Jiang, and the other one was one of the 3 martial kings Zhuanghong. This planet sure is backward. After Zhuanghong got off the Qian, he said lightly with a look of disdain on his face. After hearing what Zhuanghong said, Shi Jingyao didn't know what to say. However, thinking about how Shi Jingyao was able to sit in the same car as the bureau chief, Shi Jingyao's status should be very high. Hello, bureau chief, I am the person in charge, Shi Jingyao. Shi Jingyao said respectfully to Ji Yang, who remained silent. Before Ji Yang could say anything, Zhuanghong, who was at the side, said with a smile, Shi Jingyao, this name of yours is a bit interesting. Shi Jingyao had an awkward look on his face. This time he really didn't know what to say. These people are definitely not people that he can afford to offend. Ji Yang stood with his hands behind his back and said indifferently, lead the way and go in to take a look. This way please, bureau chief. Shi Jingyao leaned forward and said. Ji Yang and Zhuanghong walked at the front, and behind them were the guards. Of course there was also Shi Jingyao, Wu Lu and the others who were trembling with fear. Zhuanghong walked beside Ji Yang, leaned forward and said, to think that you would want to come and visit this kind of trash planet. You are really suffering. Can you not speak? Ji Yang frowned. Originally, coming out for an inspection had nothing to do with Zhuanghong, but the president insisted that Zhuanghong come along with him. He said that it was to take care of Zhuanghong, but in actuality, it was to monitor Zhuanghong. Seems like after that incident the president's trust in me has plummeted. This is not good at all. When I came out for an inspection, the president even sent someone to follow me and chattered non-stop on the way. Zhuanghong laughed and said disapprovingly, Bureau Chief Ji, if you have a burning temper then go and settle it. Although this planet is a bit backward, there are still women here. Don't hold it in. Jiang took a deep breath. He was obviously very angry. Seeing that Jiang was so angry that he did not speak, Zhuanghong did not continue to be angry. It was enough to stop. Shi Jingyao followed behind and heard a little. Who was this man? He actually did not care about Bureau Chief Ji, and Bureau Chief Ji seemed to be unwilling to pay attention to him. But was he unwilling to pay attention to him, or did he not dare to pay attention to him? Shi Jingyao could not figure it out. It was better not to care about these high-level matters. He just had to prepare his next words. The group of people went upstairs under the strange gazes of others. Bureau Chief Ji, please. Bring me to see, Ji Yang said lightly. Shi Jingyao originally wanted to curry favor, but he did not expect Bureau Chief Ji to directly want to see his work situation. It seemed that he was not so easy to fool. The group went straight to the office. Bureau Chief Ji, please sit, Shi Jingyao said respectfully. Ji Yang sat on the boss's chair and opened the system with great familiarity. He slowly checked. Shi Jingyao stood at the side, trembling with fear as he waited for the lecture. Zhuang Hong sat at the side, drinking tea with a smile on his face. Bureau Chief Shi, Ji Yang said lightly. Shi Jingyao was shocked and hurriedly asked, what instructions does Bureau Chief Ji have? There is a problem with your work. Ji Yang turned off the system and sternly reprimanded him. Chapter 660. This was within Shi Jingyao's expectations. Were the people he caught all these years small? Sheathing the saber, fearfully helping to dispel evil. Retraction? Pull out the vinegar arpeggios ring from Gamma? Fine wood convex aluminium, Shi Jingyao hurriedly explained. Director General Ji, you might not know this, but there's a lack of manpower here and the benefits aren't good, so many people aren't willing to work here. The higher-ups said that they're going to distribute equipment, but we haven't seen anything yet. You haven't sent it yet? Ji Yang asked in a deep voice. Yeah, I've been dragging it out. Zhuang Hong laughed lightly. This time and space branch of yours is really corrupt. There's a level of scam and there's no more scam after reaching here, or could it be? Bureau Chief Ji, what about you? Zhuang Hong. That's enough. Ji Yang shouted at Zhuang Hong. He didn't know how many bad things he would say to the president this time. Director Ji, why are you angry? This is normal. Zhuang Hong ignored it and continued. Ji Yang wanted nothing more than to stab Zhuang Hong to death. Shi Jingyao seemed to know something. Could it be that this man was here to supervise? Therefore Director Ji did not dare to provoke him. After a while, Ji Yang calmed down and continued to ask, even if there were problems with the equipment and benefits, there shouldn't be such a small result. Director General Ji, you may not know this, but although this planet is backward, it is located in the center of spacetime chaos. Countless illegal immigrants choose to come here, so the situation is very complicated. There are countless powerhouses and our branch has also suffered heavy casualties. Hearing Shi Jingyao's words, Zhuang Hong smiled disdainfully. What powerful people? That's just an excuse. No matter how powerful the smugglers are, they are more than enough to deal with them with your strength. Could it be that Director Ji allowed them to do as they pleased? Bang. Ji Yang slammed the table. Zhuang Hong. Do you believe that I won't sue you in front of the president? You're already angry? Looks like you have a guilty conscience. Shi Jingyao felt that his chance had come. He said respectfully, Sir, it's true. There are many powerful people on this planet. It's not a lie. Can you give me an example? Zhuang Hong asked curiously. Voidless Realm is the strongest power on this planet, and there are stowaways within Voidless Realm as well. However, I can only watch from the side. Shi Jingyao seemed like he wanted to pat on his chest and shout out that he was powerless. Zhuang Hong crossed his legs and said with a smile, Chief Ji, your subordinate is in trouble, so you should help him out no matter what. I've been here for the past few months and I've been bored out of my mind. Why don't you exercise a little so that you can show off your power in front of your subordinate? Ji Yang's chest heaved up and down. He really wanted to chop off Zhuang Hong's head so that the world would be at peace. When Shi Jingyao heard what Voidless Realm said, he felt very comfortable in his heart. If the two of them were to take action, they would definitely be able to bring down Voidless Realm. As for why Shi Jingyao wanted to get rid of Voidless Realm, it was because Shi Jingyao felt that Voidless Realm's prestige was getting bigger and bigger, to the point that Voidless Realm's prestige had even surpassed Spacetime Branch. In the past, the three big powers were all silent and didn't pay any attention to Voidless Realm, and everyone felt that they were all on equal footing. However, the situation right now was different. Voidless Realm was already in an overwhelming situation, and this was something that Shi Jingyao did not want to see. Therefore he wanted to borrow other people's hands to bring down Voidless Realm. This way his position would be much more stable. This was actually a kind of psychological stability. After all, Spacetime Branch cannot be exposed, but Shi Jingyao did not want to see other people become stronger, because that would make him seem very incompetent. Are you done talking? Ji Yang shouted gravely. Zhuang drank a mouthful of tea with an indifferent expression on his face. That branch's chief, do you think what I said just now is correct? Xianxia hurriedly shut his mouth. It's better for me to not get involved in this kind of fight between deities. However, I still approve of what Zhuang said in my heart. I just want you guys to take action, but I can't say it out loud. How could Ziyang possibly get involved in this kind of work? However, hearing what Zhuang said, Ziyang felt extremely displeased. Furthermore, recently I have already been suppressing a stomach full of anger. Even if I don't teach this Zhuang a lesson, I have to teach someone else a lesson to vent my anger. Sure. Zhuang, you go and practice. A hint of fierceness flashed past Ziyang's eyes. If I were to be sacrificed during the fight, that would truly be a pleasant surprise. Thinking up to here, Ziyang seemed to have made a decision. If I were to let this Zhuang go, this Zhuang might say bad things about me in front of the president. I might as well just get rid of him. Furthermore, I was the one who suggested this. It is inevitable that there will be deaths and injuries during the fight. When the time comes, if I were to make a move, this Zhuang will definitely lose his life on this so-called trash planet. With our Chief Ji taking action, all of the problems will not be a problem. What do you think, Chief Ji? Zhuang laughed lightly, and a trace of malicious intent could be seen hidden within the depths of his eyes. From the looks of it, this Zhuang was not only here to supervise the fight, there seems to be some other purpose in it. This Ziyang wants to kill Zhuang and this Zhuang might also want to kill Ziyang. Or this might even be the president's order. If not, why would this Zhuang keep provoking Ziyang? Therefore, there should be some sort of conspiracy. Xianxia is definitely unable to understand the reasoning behind this. As long as they are willing to go, it will be fine, there is nothing to worry about. Of course, with Chief Ji taking action, everyone will have to give way. Xianxia naturally had to bootlick Ziyang. Getting a promotion is not a delusion anymore. Ziyang asked gravely, what is the background of this voidless realm? Voidless realm is one of the 3 big powers on this planet and their history is very long as well. The leader of voidless realm is a woman and her man is a stowaway. Hearing that, Zhuang laughed loudly. Their history is very long. Is it as long as ours? Xianxia said respectfully, naturally their history is not as long as ours. Ziyang stood up and said gravely, then let's go and settle this matter. I'll let you exercise your muscles and bones. Let's go and stretch our muscles and bones. Zhuang stood up and shrugged his shoulders. Xianxia said hurriedly, Chief Ji, don't you need to understand the situation a bit more? Without waiting for Ziyang to speak, Zhuang said straightforwardly, understand the situation? Is that a dangerous place? Or is it a place of no return? Young man, you are thinking too much. In the entire Milky Way galaxy, who is able to? Before Zhuang could finish speaking, he froze. Ziyang sneered, who is able to? The corner of Zhuang's mouth twitched slightly and very quickly he thought back to that day. That day was the day of national humiliation. The entire Blue Blaze planet was suppressed by a single man, and the entire Blue Blaze planet was unable to retaliate at all, and even the president was forced to kneel down. Just what kind of humiliation was that? It was practically like putting down one's dignity and fiercely rubbing against the ground. Looking at the two's reaction, Xianxia was very puzzled. What is going on? Fear and unwillingness seemed to be present on their faces. Lead the way. Ziyang said faintly. If Ziyang were to know that the person he is messing with this time is that man, his expression would probably be very interesting. Chapter 661. Within Voidless Realm. Right now, Yihua was in Qin Yutong's palace. In the past month, the amount of time that he spent with his sister-in-law was more than the amount of time that he spent with his 2 wives. Seems like Qin Yutong really knows how to make men happy. Brother-in-law, is it comfortable? Qin Yutong bit onto her cherry lips and asked sweetly. Yihua enjoyed it very much and said faintly, not bad, recently my technology has improved again. I don't feel anything when it is slightly heavier. All right. Move down a bit and then a bit more gently. Yihua closed his eyes and he seemed to be really comfortable. Qin Yutong followed Yihua's instructions and moved downwards, then asked, brother-in-law, is it comfortable? Yes, very comfortable. Hee, this is a newly learned martial art. Qin Yutong was very complacent and began to show off. Yihua sighed with emotion. If only your big sister and Baiji were half as attentive as you, I wouldn't have ended up like this. If big sister and the others are interested, then wouldn't I not have a chance? Qing Yutong pouted her mouth. Yi Hua said gravely, "Don't talk, do your work properly." What's the relationship between me giving you a massage and me talking?" Yi Hua could be seen sitting on the chair, while Qing Yutong was standing behind him and lightly massaging with her hands. "Of course it's related. I have to experience it carefully." Qing Yutong slightly lowered her head and whispered into Yi Hua's ears, "Brother-in-law, how about we go to the bed? Yutong has learned a lot of tricks." The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched as he said helplessly, "Are you trying to suck me to death?" Right when Qing Yutong was preparing to act coquettishly, the sound of Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji's footsteps rang out from outside the door. The two of them maintained the same posture, and it seems like they did not do anything shameful. Seeing the appearance of her husband and sister, Xianxia went into a daze for a moment, but very quickly she adjusted herself. This kind of thing had happened before, and it was nothing more than Yi Hua letting his sister massage his shoulders, exercising his right as a brother-in-law. "What are you rushing over here for?" Yi Hua picked up a grape, peeled off the skin and placed it into his mouth. Yi Hua slightly wrinkled his brows. It seemed like he was a bit sour. Qing Yutong was also tactful, and when she saw that her big sister had arrived, she also sat at the side. Donghuang Baiji sat beside Yi Hua and said while holding onto her forehead, "Some people are knocking on the door." "Knock on the door? For you to be able to walk all the way here and knock on the door, it seems that your strength is not bad." Yi Hua felt that things were getting a bit interesting. He lightly waved his hand and a white fog could be seen appearing in front of him. Gradually an image appeared within the white fog. More than 10 people could be seen attacking Voidless Realms barrier. "Oh, these two people look a bit familiar. Have we met somewhere before?" Yi Hua looked at Ji Yang and Zhuang Hong and asked. "I really feel that I have met them before, but I'm not sure." It was no wonder. Back then, when Yi Hua was stirring up trouble in Cerulean Planet, he was so far away and he only paid attention to that president. Who would have the time to pay attention to anything else? At most he would only take a glance at it and not take it to heart. "I also feel that I have seen it somewhere before, but I just can't remember where." Xianxia wrinkled her eyebrows and her mind was trying to recall. Donghuang Baiji, who was at the side, also had the same feeling, but she just couldn't recall what it was. It seemed that the three of them only remembered the president and didn't know anyone else around them. After all, who would remember a salted fish? "Let me take a look as well." Qing Yutong also ran over to take a look at the screen. However, how would Qing Yutong know? That time when Qing Yutong went to travel, she was still playing games at home. After looking at the screen for a long time, Yi Hua and his two wives were still unable to recall anything. At this time, Donghuang Li and Yi Yan suddenly ran into the room. The two little fellows were currently sweating profusely and gasping for breath. "Daddy, Mommy, what are you two looking at?" Donghuang Li jumped into her father's embrace. Yi Yan didn't hesitate either and he squeezed onto the side as well. Donghuang Li looked at the people on the screen and cried out in surprise, Ali knows these two people." Yi Hua went into a daze, then looked towards his daughter who was in his embrace. "Where did Ali see them before? Daddy, don't you remember? Back then when we went to that planet to play we saw those two people." Seems like the memory of children is quite good. Yi Hua suddenly slapped onto his forehead and immediately remembered. "It's them." Donghuang Baiji cried out in surprise. Xianxia became even more confused. How did they find this place? Yi Hua was also very surprised and at the same time he was also very impressed. "I didn't expect that they would actually find my base of operations, and furthermore they only brought such a small amount of people with them. Did they come prepared or did they come because their confidence is off the charts? It shouldn't be, right? Wasn't the lesson that we gave them last time not enough? Even if they are here to take revenge, the scale of the people that they brought with them is indeed too small." Xianxia mumbled. Qing Yutong cried out in surprise, "Aya, what happened when you two went to play last time? It seemed to be very interesting. Why didn't you bring me along?" Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly. "What do you mean by not bringing you along? You were clearly the one who wanted to stay at home and play games." Yi Hua lightly stroked onto the hair of the two little fellows, then said with a light smile, "Seems like they don't know that I am here. As for why they came, I am also very curious." "Play?" Xianxia blinked her mischievous eyes. Yi Hua nodded his head, and the three looked towards Qing Yutong simultaneously. This caused Qing Yutong to cross her arms in front of her chest. What are you all trying to do? Outside of Voidless Realms barrier?" Jiyang, Zhuanghong, and Shijingao were standing at the side, and a group of guards were violently beating up the barrier. However, these kinds of attacks were completely unable to cause any damage to the barrier. Zhuanghong looked at the huge barrier in front of him and said lightly, "Seems like this barrier is indeed quite strong. This kind of barrier is one of the best in our world." Although Jiyang didn't like Zhuanghong, he also agreed with what Zhuanghong said. The strength of this barrier had already surpassed his imagination. In fact, this kind of barrier wouldn't even appear on other planets. Shijingao said respectfully at the side, "The reason why Voidless Realm is able to achieve what it has today is closely related to this barrier. Even until now, no one has been able to break through this barrier." Zhuanghong laughed mockingly. "A mere barrier, can it even stop my footsteps? You are truly thinking too much." Zhuanghong could be seen taking a step forward and shouting out, "Everyone get out of the way." The guards in front of Zhuanghong hurriedly stepped aside. Shijingao was also very excited. "I am about to see a big shot display his ultimate move, and I reckon that this Voidless Realms barrier won't be able to withstand a single attack from him." Jiyang crossed his arms in front of his chest and stood at the side, watching silently. "Ha!" Zhuanghong shouted out angrily, and a huge amount of spiritual pressure was released from his body, which immediately set off a large amount of dust. Meanwhile, the spiritual pressure was still rising endlessly, and the yellow sand beneath Zhuanghong's feet began trembling, and the radius of the spiritual pressure was also becoming wider and wider. Shijingao looked at Zhuanghong dumbfoundedly. As expected, this person's strength is very strong. No wonder he is able to argue with General Director Ji, and furthermore he is not weak at all. This person is much stronger than me. With a sinister smile on his face, Zhuanghong fiercely took a step forward with his left leg, and a wave of air immediately spread out to all directions. Meanwhile, his right fist that was placed beside his lower abdomen was emitting out a terrifying aura. "Break for me, Sky Fiend Fist." Along with Zhuanghong's shout, a wave of spiritual energy that could shake the heavens suddenly erupted, and the spiritual energy that brought along a scorching hot aura crashed onto Voidless Realms barrier.